Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for attending Windham High School's 4th annual Shark Tank. The evening's schedule is located in the digital program that can be found using this QR code. If you take out your phone camera and scan this code now, our digital program will be available to you. Each team of either 2 or 3 students enrolled in the engineering capstone class are competing for access to money to build a working prototype for the solution to a problem of their choosing. 4 sharks, experts in their field of business and technology, have graciously accepted the responsibility to vet student pitches tonight. Students whose ideas are not selected tonight will join one of the funded projects and fully participate in the final design and prototyping phase of development for the remainder of the academic year. Please hold any applause for students to immediately after each question and answer period. We would like to share a few notes about additional precautions being taken this evening in order to minimize the health risks associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. All guests in attendance tonight are by invitation only. For those unable to make it, we are live streaming the event. All guests should be wearing face coverings and be socially distanced throughout the event. Participants will be following health and safety guidelines for actors and wind ensembles. They will wear masks at all time off stage, but are permitted to remove their masks when on stage and presenting, so long as an 8 to 10 foot spacing is observed. Participants will be using handheld microphones that will be sanitized in between sets. We have removed the entry door and other stage elements in order to reduce points of contact and maximize the open space on the stage. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show as we introduce our 4 amazing sharks. Mr. Doug Chin has a master's degree in electrical engineering and computer science and has more than 20 U.S. patents. He has spent his career with a small group of friends from MIT, successfully founding and exiting several technology startups in the greater Boston area. His most recent venture was Amedia Semiconductor, which designed chips for video processing until it decided to use those chips to create the Blink brand of internet-connected, battery-powered home security cameras, which it introduced through a successful Kickstarter campaign in 2014 that raised over $1 million. In 2017, Amedia was acquired by Amazon, where Mr. Chin continues to guide the evolution of Blink products. In his spare time, he enjoys mentoring high school robotics teams and creating things in his man cave. Please welcome Mr. Doug Chin. Ms. Taryn Livingstone is a second-year student at Northeastern University and winning Shark Tank Venture in 2018. She's majoring in mechanical engineering and minoring in computer science because one kind of engineering just wasn't enough. Additionally, she's the vice president of programs at Northeastern Entrepreneurs Club, the largest student organization on campus, and manages a team of 6 to run over 40 events every semester. Taryn spends her free time teaching startup principles to Northeastern's budding entrepreneurs, working with student-led ventures to perfect their pitches, advising them on how to utilize on- and off-campus resources for their venture, and exploring startup ideas of her own. In industry, Taryn has worked as a junior product manager at Clear Ballot Group, as a recent high school graduate, and will be beginning working as a junior manufacturing and supply chain manager in January at Whoop, a Boston-based company with a $1.2 billion valuation. She's entrepreneurial, she's hungry, she's our first ever WHS alumni shark, and she's ready to rumble! Please welcome Taryn Livingstone. Our next shark is Mr. Shyam Sheth. Shyam is a Windham High School alumnus from the class of 2013. After high school, he attended the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, where he graduated with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering in 2017 and a master's in energy engineering in 2018. At university, Shyam served as president of the local chapter of Engineers for a Sustainable World, participated in a mission to launch a satellite, and designed and tested a microwave plasma reactor for sustainable energy applications. He has worked at GE Aviation for the past 2 years as a manufacturing engineer. He currently serves as the process owner for F404 and F414 afterburner components used by the Swedish Air Force, the Korean Air Force, NASA, and the United States Navy. In his spare time, Shyam likes to travel, dance, take photos, and debate rap music. Please welcome Mr. Shyam Sheth. Our next shark is Mr. Kenny Sammel. In 1977, Kenny started his professional career in technology when Wang Labs hired him away from the family business. He spent the next 7 years developing the industry's first 3.5-inch floppy disk controller, the first hard drive-based PC, and many other communications and data storage products. Kenny left Wang when he and a close friend and coworker decided to take the risk and start their own company, Magna Computer. Magna developed one of the first graphic workstations, the first encryption disk controller for the U.S. military, and a real-time data translation device for the U.S. State Department. During this time, Magna was featured in the Business New Hampshire magazine, PC Magazine, and Computer World. 10 years after Magna Computer was founded, it was acquired by EMC. At EMC, Ken's team developed and implemented one of the first completely automated push software update systems, which would automatically update the customer systems in the field during periods of inactivity. After 10 years at EMC, Kenny left and moved his life, family, and career to California, where he joined Quantum as VP of Software Development and 1 year later as VP of Engineering. He led development organizations spread across 5 locations around the world. Following his retirement and before moving back to New Hampshire, Kenny assisted at University of California, Irvine in their applied innovation program known as the Cove. He was also part of the Million Cups program, which encourages anyone, students and locals of any age, to present their product ideas to an audience made up of venture capitalists, patent attorneys, and business-savvy consultants. Throughout his career, Kenny has developed over 100 consumer products, including high-end audio, the market's first flat-screen plasma TV, digital projectors for home and movie theaters, medical and safety devices, including a safety device used by free divers and scuba divers, as well as the U.S. Navy SEALs. Please welcome Kenny Sammel.
We expect the growth to be roughly 100 million packages a day. So we're going to have plans in place to make sure that there aren't packages laying out on people's front porches for hours or in some cases days if they're not home.
Many cities nationwide are seeing an explosive increase in package thefts. Denver, Colorado noticed a 68% increase in these thefts just from 2015 to 2018.
While Amazon offers up to $2,500 in product reimbursement, other companies do not provide this luxury to their customers.
USPS doesn't reward any reimbursement for mail theft. However, FedEx does compromise and pays the cost of a product up to a mere $100.
Trust us here at Pigeon Delivery.
First into the tank is Matt Carney and Jackson Mahoney. Matt is a highly motivated student that is ranked in the top quarter of his graduating class, has taken a total of 3 AP courses and 10 honors courses, and is president of the French Honor Society and secretary of the WHS Passport Club. Matt intends to major in computer science as well as continuing his soccer career at the collegiate level. Jackson is a high-achieving student athlete that has taken a total of 3 AP courses and 5 honors courses. He has been a 3-year starter for the high school varsity soccer team and looks to continue playing at the collegiate level. Jackson also takes time to tutor kids that are struggling either academically or behaviorally, and is also an intern for the algebra-based AP Physics 1 course.
Good evening, Sharks. My name is Matt, and I am one of the founders here at Pigeon Delivery. Today, what we are pitching to you is an invention that is going to completely revolutionize the modern application of our broken and outdated delivery system.
My name is Jackson. I am Matt's co-entrepreneurial partner. It is up to you, Sharks, to protect the mail of America by securing our $400 product development fund.
After everything that has happened in 2020, it has become increasingly clear that a new method of mail delivery is in very high demand.
If there was a product on the market that had a locking mechanism such as ours, it would fly off the shelves just due to the $9 billion that have been lost due to mail theft.
Our innovation at large looks to cut back on the amount of mail thefts that happen on a daily basis. And we can do this using BLE or Bluetooth Low Energy Component technology, which will connect with the mailbox. Once it's in the 10-meter proximity, it will unlock. But once it leaves this 10-meter proximity, it will lock up again.
As time goes on in this nation, people want things better, newer, and more exciting, and mailboxes are no different.
While this may seem like a heavy list of complex equipment, the truth is that we have articulated a short list which we can use for a shopping list and accommodate and fulfill our product idea.
Our locking mechanism requires 0.5 amps at 12 volts to be able to work, and our solar panel more than adequately does that.
Now, our mailbox wants to be able to encompass all sorts of mail. So we are incorporating small to medium-sized mail packages, as well as regular-sized birthday letters and other letters.
A little shopping list we made includes things such as the locking mechanism for $95. We also have a 6x6 solar panel, which costs $3. And we also have a battery associated with the solar panel, which is used when the solar panel creates the energy, it stores it in that battery.
Now, in the case that you don't have your phone readily available or your phone is dead, this is why we've incorporated a 4-digit passcode that you can plug in simply and get easy access to your mailbox.
So like Matt said, we have that communicating BLE technology inside the mailbox. So when that connected device enters that 10-meter proximity, the mailbox will unlock. But once you leave that 10-meter proximity, it locks again.
As you can see, this product is well worth this $180 initial investment, as you well get your returns back.
So it is very cost effective, and it allows just homeowners to be able to breathe again in terms of, well, our mail is not going to get stolen anymore. And with your investment, we look to build a prototype, which then we look to pitch to different stores across the nation and hope they go on shelves.
So our prototype production will obviously start low at 1, but once we multiply and increase in magnitude, we can start lowering the amount of cost for our unit price. This will mean that we have more money for our net profit.
Our mail system is very outdated, and I think it's time we step away from that and enter the realm of like new technology and just better overall.
So the unit price is $84 once we get it down to scale costs. Our sale cost is $180, so this means we will make $96 in these profit returns on each sale.
We aim to simplify the way mailing works overall, and we look to revamp and make it look way nicer.
The domain of mailboxes has not been attained to by the influx of technology in the 21st century. We are looking to change that.
We look to basically just remodel the entire thing by adding new tech, making it basically 21st century.
Stop worrying about your scheduling for deliveries and carry on with us at Pigeon Delivery.
So are you familiar with the regulations surrounding what a mailbox has to be? Because the mailbox has to be approved by the post office.
Right, so the mailbox we're looking at is the U.S. Postal Service architectural mailbox, which is 13 inches wide, which is why I said that it would be able to incorporate small to medium-sized packages.
So this is for residential use?
Yep, and urban, yeah.
And how does the mail
Businesses.
carrier open it?
So that's kind of our biggest problem at the moment, but our thinking is that we can get our mail devices to communicate with our mailboxes, and if the lock is compatible, then we can get it to unlock within this proximity of 10 meters.
So have you figured out what the cost to the U.S. Postal Service will be to outfit their vehicles with, I'll call it the transceiver?
It wouldn't be a matter of updating the vehicles. It would just be a simple app through the phone. So when that phone enters that realm of 10 meters,
So the postal carrier's phone will be updated and will be able to unlock every mailbox in their route?
yeah, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to basically like almost supply these to US Mail to give out to people so that like their carriers. So we're looking to just really have them buy our product and like.
I mean, I certainly understand from the consumer's point of view, the resident, they have a unique code on their phone, on their app, to unlock it. But the postal carrier would have to have a universal code that would unlock any and all.
Yes.
Okay, just. And is any thought to, given the rollout time for the Postal Service to implement the app, test it, approve it, and everything else, to start with a mailbox that just upon closing auto locks, and then the resident can unlock it to get their mail, and then their doing so leaves it unlocked until the next day when the postal carrier opens and closes the door of the mailbox, and then it auto locks again. Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, that's actually a very good idea. We kind of played with that idea, but our initial idea was to kind of stick to this proximity idea that if we can associate specific Bluetooth low energy components with ones that are compatible, then we can create a sustainable system of mail delivery.
Go for it.
Is it working? Ooh, there it is. Oh, not supposed to push. Okay. So great pitch, guys. So my question is, are you picturing this to be a device located on the interior or exterior of the mailbox? And to follow up with that, if it is going to be solar powered, how does the design play into that accommodation as well?
So the design of it, the solar panel is going to be, it's going to almost be like blended into the top of the mailbox. It's going to be flush. It's going to be like, so it absorbs most of that sun. And we do plan on trying to basically like we were trying to make a prototype to see how this works because we still are working things out.
But to answer your question about like where the components to this idea goes, we are planning to keep it inside of the mailbox so that there's no danger for getting it wet, getting it snowy, getting it too cold, etc.
So I live in the North End, and there's a lot of buildings there. As a result, my mailbox is standard issue USPS. However, there isn't really anywhere that solar power would be able to power some sort of battery or mechanism that would be able to unlock that box. Have you considered any sort of alternate methods for powering the system?
Well, we haven't exactly gone away from the solar panel idea because while it isn't a good idea, it's for people living in cities and such so that they're not going to be able to open their mailbox. But our idea was more of to incorporate it for people in like more space so that we can create a more sustainable environment. But yeah, in the future, if we do get funded, we definitely look into transferring because it wouldn't be that hard to use different types of energy.
I have one more question, if I may. The USPS pretty much almost went under this year and is kind of known for being a very underfunded entity, which is hard to get change to pass in there. Have you considered the potential ramifications or obstacles that you would have on the USPS implementation side of things?
Yeah, we have thought about that. And well, we aren't just looking at USPS, we're also just looking to maybe even implement this just not for retailers, but also just for homeowners. So if we sell it at Walmart, they will be able to connect their own mailbox to their app and it'll be private. They won't have that universal key, so they won't have to worry about other people unlocking it.
So have you, so there are similar things. For example, Amazon, the Amazon Key program, which was, an experiment that Amazon has put out where you can, allow them to open your door. I do not believe that that has been a particularly successful venture for Amazon because the consumer's feeling is that if a package is lost, in the case of Amazon, it's really Amazon's problem, and it's not really solving their problem, it's solving Amazon's problem.
Right, so Amazon has paid a lot of money in reimbursements for lost mail, etc., stolen mail, and that's why we're looking at Amazon as another potential, not investor, but similar, to help with us and further our dream.
There already exists a Bluetooth device for mailboxes. It's a retrofit that notifies the resident anytime the door of the mailbox is opened or closed. It attaches to the door of the mailbox. So other than it not having the locking capability for the security, it does notify the resident anytime their mailbox is opened.
Well, so in places like New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, they have these really long and extensive driveways, and I looked at that product and it requires Wi-Fi. And so the problem with that is, say a house with a pretty long driveway, that Wi-Fi won't extend as far as that mailbox. So there is an issue with that. That may work better in, like, say, a city, but not in places like Vermont where the driveways are very long.
The reason I was asking was twofold. One was just to see if you were aware of it. And two is, are you at all concerned that you might be infringing on a patent they may already have for notification using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi for mailbox opening and closings?
So when we started the idea, we were initially concerned about another mailbox that's being made similar, but that was all deterred when we found out that it requires Wi-Fi, which ours does not require Wi-Fi.
Have you considered how much energy this takes? It seems to me that you should be able to do this without a lot of solar input.
Yes.
Yeah, you can answer that. Okay, Jackson said that he researched that we found 0.5 amps of energy at an hour of watt, or voltage.
12 volts.
12 volts, sorry.
Okay, you have a few issues with your units there, but go ahead.
I thought we did pretty well. It was nerve-wracking being up there in front of those people, and then the Q&A was tough. They asked you very in-depth questions, so I thought we did well, but I thought it was difficult.
I think we overall did well. I think our biggest issue was not having like a composed tone of voice, I would say.
Could have, sounded a little bit more composed during my script. I felt like I was definitely fast because the nerves were getting to me, but I definitely could have talked a lot slower than I did.
I think my biggest issue was just saying everything I wanted to get across. I would say I got 90% of what I wanted to get across, but if I could have gotten everything across, that would have been great.
The new normal.
That new normal.
Our new normal looks like.
Another new normal.
This will be the new normal.
What if I told you there was something that you can do right now that would have an immediate positive benefit for your brain, including your mood and your focus?
We found that over half, 57% of today's children will have obesity at the age of 35.
And what if I told you that same thing could actually last a long time and protect your brain from different conditions like depression, Alzheimer's disease, or dementia? Would you do it?
1 in 10 deaths worldwide can be blamed on illnesses that are caused by lack of exercise.
I am talking about the powerful effects of physical activity that is simply moving your body, has immediate, long-lasting, and protective benefits for your brain.
Next into the tank is Cole Flanagan and Ethan Kiersgaard. Cole is a successful floor coating business co-owner, a 3-sport varsity athlete, and a varsity mathlete. He is in the top 10 of his class, has taken 9 AP classes, and was recognized as an AP Scholar with distinction. Ethan is a WHS legend. He is the class president 4 years running, in the top 9% of his class, and has taken 12 AP courses, won an Excellence in Acting Award at the state level, received the Sage College Book Award, and runs the freshman mentoring program here at Windham High School.
Hello, Sharks. We are here today to secure funding for our revolutionary game-playing device, the Chrono-G. We are asking for $500 in aid to develop this innovative watch.
In a time of extensive lockdowns, there is a need now more than ever for a way for teenagers to safely socialize and remain active. Our product, the Chrono-G, revolutionizes staple games such as Manhunt and Capture the Flag in a way that obeys current social distancing guidelines and still manages to remain relevant once those guidelines no longer need to be enforced.
The Chrono-G resembles an electronic watch and is outfitted with both a radio a radio transceiver and a GPS patch antenna. Now, the radio transceiver allows us to be accurate up to 1 to 2 feet, and the Chrono-G to communicate with other devices. The GPS patch antenna allows the Chrono-G to find its own location.
The question everyone asks us, why can't this be done with just a simple phone app? As a runner, I commonly have to run anywhere from 6 to 10 miles per day. I need to track my distance ran and the pace I run at in order to track my improvement. Now, this can be done with a simple phone app, but still, no one who takes running even half seriously runs with their phone. Why? Well, it's simple. It just plain sucks. It's bulky and extremely inconvenient. Instead, we wear a light GPS-enabled watch.
People happily shell out hundreds of dollars just to not have to run with a phone in their hand or pocket. Every game the Chrono-G has incorporates physical activity, and having a phone just reduces the fun and keeps kids on their phones.
Apart from the inconvenience, a phone does not have all the necessary technology needed to play many of the games, specifically the radio transceiver. GPS alone is not nearly accurate enough to produce a robust experience. So, the Chrono-G allows for close proximity responsiveness in a compact watch format.
Now, let's talk about the games. Manhunt. It's a staple among kids and teens alike. Usually, it's played in a yard or field. A group of kids gets together and a part of them goes and hides, while some of them stay back and count to a certain time, let's say 2 minutes. After that time is up, they go and hunt down the people hiding. After a certain amount of time, the hiders win, if they're not all tagged. This game, as played normally, has many limitations, such as the fairness of being tagged, the social distancing in this modern COVID age, as well as the size of the yard or field.
Now it can be played across an entire town. All players would be wearing the Chrono-G. The prey would have, say, 5 to 10 minutes to get away from the hunters. After that time has elapsed, the hunters begin searching. The hunters would be able to see their approximate distance from the prey on their Chrono-G device. As they moved, they would either become closer or farther away from the prey and would be able to change their direction of search based on that. Once the hunters become within sight of the prey, the chase is on. First to get within 10 feet of the prey wins that round, at which point the Chrono-G will light up, signaling the round is ended and for all players to return to the start point.
And that's only one version of the many categories of Manhunt within the watch, as well as other games such as Capture the Flag and Scavenger Hunts, and tons more. On top of that, the Chrono-G has a timekeeping feature and an exercise tracking feature. It truly has it all.
We have also gathered market research of over 150 people to see how the public will react to the Chrono-G. We found that 83% of people had played Manhunt, over 99% have played Capture the Flag in their lives. The most amazing part of our survey was that 2/3 of respondents said they would purchase the Chrono-G or a device like it at a $30 price point. Currently, our estimated cost to produce a unit, once we have a working prototype, is $20 to $22. It's extremely important to note this is completely without scale, and once scaled, we estimate the cost to manufacture a unit to be at most $10 to $12.
So, Sharks, will you join us in revolutionizing the world of games?
Can you explain the use of the transceiver a little bit more? Is it for long distance, or is it purely for accurate ranging at very short distance? Is it for communication between devices, or is it simply ranging?
So we have both a GPS patching antenna and the transceiver. The GPS is going to be more for the longer distance, and that transceiver has a 5-kilometer range. So that's going to be used for the accuracy at close distances, because GPS is not going to be extremely accurate to the close distances we need it at the same price point.
Are you calling 5 kilometers a close distance?
No, so essentially the 5 kilometers is when the radio transceiver will kick in, and it's accurate up to 1 to 2 feet, unlike GPS.
I'm confused.
That's confusing. So what technology in the radio are you using for this accurate distance measurement?
So we're using a radio transceiver that emits radio waves, and then the transceiver is both what transmits and receives the radio waves.
So just for clarification, and I apologize, going along with Doug's question, player A and player B are in Central Park.
Yes.
And they are hiding. Player C and player D are 20 city blocks away.
Yep.
And they are moving around in their little park.
Yep.
And they virtually see the two in Central Park, or do they actually have to make their way towards Central Park?
So they're going to, on their device, basically see if they're however many blocks away. They'll say they are 0.75 miles away from them. Mm-hmm. And we can do it with either having a direction towards it or without the direction. And so as they walk, they'll say, oh, now we're 0.7 away, now we're 0.6, and that visual component's going to kick in once you're close.
So, but ultimately, they win if they actually find the two, player A and player B, in Central Park.
Exactly.
So basically, the transceiver and the GPS are just cheating ways for them to find the people, because otherwise, obviously, they have no idea where they would be.
Exactly.
So would it not make more sense for the GPS/radio transceiver to stop working when they get within a certain distance, so then they actually have to go hunting for them?
So this is where the social distancing aspect comes into it. So once you're in a very close proximity, at that point, the radio transceiver is kicked on, and that's when you need to get in, let's say, 2 to 5 feet of the person. And that feature is only necessary for the social distancing of right now. So essentially, in the future, you'll be able to just say, oh, you need to get so close where that's a tag. So the radio transceiver will be tuned to that degree.
So again, I apologize, because in order for player C and D to see the basic general location of A and B, there has to be a GPS transmission.
There will be, yes.
So it's not just a receiver, it's also a transmitter.
Yes.
And you've gone through the details of what it takes to acquire a license for all that?
Yes.
And you're saying that your unit cost will be, you're estimating between $20 and $22?
In the beginning, that's what we've estimated.
And that's for both the transmitter, the receiver of GPS, plus the RF transceiver.
So far, our research has
and a display, if I heard you correctly.
Yes, we have a display.
All for, okay.
Yeah, so buying it at completely retail, we have the display around $5, the transceiver at around $5, and the patch antenna to $3 to $3.50.
Okay.
I'll ask a question on the marketing side of things. What is your ideal target market, and how are you going to, to begin with, reach that market?
Yeah, so our ideal market is teenagers, so we're looking at the 14 to 20-year age range. And one thing teenagers are known for is gossip. So a huge part of our market strategy, if we ever get there, is going to be word of mouth. So for example, going to schools, giving students a discounted version of the Chrono G, and then having those students at that school use it. And if it's as good as we think it's going to be, they'll tell their friends, and their friends will then buy it at the full price.
Okay, so like an ambassador type of a program? Okay.
So Manhunt is basically over when you pretty much tag the other person. Am I right? Basically, from how I understand it, the game starts using these Chrono G receivers to be massively socially distanced to a point of kilometers or miles. and the end game of the game is to not be socially distanced any longer and to physically touch the person, or how do you know when you win?
So essentially, you start very far away in terms of kilometers, in terms of miles, like a whole town. But then as you search for the people, you become closer and closer. But in this social distancing world that we're currently in, we have a feature to where it's, if you're in a certain radius of the person in terms of feet, you'll be able to say, okay, you found them.
Okay, and what about the radio transmission transceiver gives it the edge over a similar app that could be made for a GPS device?
Sorry, could you restate your question? Like a GPS device like our watch, or like a phone?
Yeah, like a Apple Watch or something similar.
An Apple Watch just doesn't have the technology. It has the GPS, but that's not accurate enough to do what we're talking about with the radio transceiver.
Okay. So I'm a sometimes serious bike rider.
Yeah.
And my wife always likes to know where I am.
Yep.
So on my phone, I allow her to see my location. So what would make your product any different than player A and player B sharing their location with player C and D on their phone maps, and then they can make their way to them and try to find them? Same as, Find My Phone, but this one actually uses maps. And it's built into the phone. I mean, it's free. It's part of every iPhone.
Yeah, so in our pitch, we talked about that having a phone, I think we all know kids are always on their phones nowadays. So first off, getting the phone out of people's hands is a good thing, as well as when you're running around, it's really not good to have on you. And the biggest part of it is that the phones don't have the technology to be very accurate with finding your location. The GPS can tell you generally, let's say within I think we found it at like a 0.5 mile radius where you are, but you need to be more accurate than that when you're playing a game like Manhunt, because if I'm here and someone is over in the let's say the cafeteria, my iPhone might be like, oh, you're right next to them. But actually, I cannot see them and there are walls between us. The radio transceiver will be able to find them within feet instead of miles.
And a huge thing is also for the GPS, if you're ever using your phone to map your directions, let's say it says take a left turn and you head straight, it takes a significant amount of time before that phone now says you need to take a U-turn because you missed that. Because a lot of times I'll go the wrong way, I'll look at my phone and it will now say my car has taken a left turn when I've went straight.
It's that latency that we're fixing with the radio transceiver.
Although I don't believe that latency is actually necessarily mandated by GPS, meaning I believe that is a trade-off for power versus battery life and things like that. Yeah. And if you wanted to, you could actually cause a phone to update faster and solve that problem. Yeah. I think what you haven't justified is why your radio, you're saying that your radio is doing a lot of things, and typical location and things takes multiple antennas and knowledge of phase, distance, and things like that. And I think you're glossing over some of these details. Can you have any more information? Like what? And the other thing is you're saying that your radio, you're not using the cell network. So to transmit several miles is going to actually require an interesting amount of power. And when you transmit with an interesting amount of power, the FCC begins to regulate you much more severely.
Our pitch went off without a hitch. When we got to the question part, in the beginning, killing them. In the end, I believe his name is Mr. Chin. He started to, let's just say, dig deeper into the technology we're using. And Cole, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, having some high schoolers go against some engineers, sometimes it's not great, but we did our best up there. So
we really tried our best.
I think the actual pitch part we had down very well. We practiced it for weeks. Before Shark Tank originally got canceled, we were basically ready. So having that extra time just made it more fluid and more genuine.
I would completely agree. Also in the beginning, when Taryn Livingstone asked a question about marketing, my fellow entrepreneur here, Cole, absolutely crushed the question about how we would market to people. And we'd never talked about that. So when he said that, I was surprised. And I was like, wow. So I would say the first whole half of actually most of the questionnaires coming off, in the end there, he gave us a scolding question. So I'm a little rattled, but it was really good, honestly.
And the timer went out before we had to answer it, so it ends well sometimes.
It was a perfect time, like Saved by the Bell.
I am very excited for this, but also nervous. It's going to be a great public speaking experience, but nervous because we're out there in front of sharks and many people, so they're always there. You're always worried about them judging you or not liking your product.
Today, we people are critical about how badly we smell. Whether on a date, casually walking around the city, or hanging out with friends, we can't help but sometimes feel insecure about our odor in public. Cologne, fragrances, and other products of the kind are created to combat this issue, but they can fail to provide a good smell for a whole day, and usually aren't designed to be portable. Never mind the fact that the longer lasting cologne and fragrances cost a lot of money, leaving us feeling not so confident of our image. It has also been proven that smells can help to relax us and relate to a boost in productivity, but we may not always have access to these smells when testing or working. That's why we created the Ether Bracelet, designed to fit within your style while providing the refinement you need for your public image.
Next into the tank is Trent Maffeo and Justin Mayhew. Trent is a high honors student who has taken 3 APs and is in currently 5, having received an AP Scholar with Honors Award and the local Renaissance Award. Trent has also participated in multiple extracurriculars, most notably JV cross country, esports, and a 3-year member of FRC Robotics, and aspires to study in computer science. Justin is an academically and athletically motivated student who has taken multiple AP and honors classes. He is part of the Science National Honor Society and a candidate for the National Honor Society. He is verbally committed to play baseball at the Division III level as he continues his athletic and academic career in college.
Are you sure you're ready for your date?
Yeah? Why wouldn't I be?
Dude, you stink. Did you forget to put on cologne again?
Oh, you're totally right. I totally did.
That's all right. Here, take my Ether Bracelet.
What's this do?
It's a bracelet that has cologne in it. You can spray on your body wherever you are, so you don't have to worry about smelling good.
Oh, thank you so much, dude.
No problem.
That's awesome.
Hello, Sharks. My name is Justin Mayhew, one of the founders and owners of Ether Bracelet. Have you ever been out with friends and realized you don't smell as good as you want to? Have you ever been so stressed about a date you forget to put on cologne or perfume? This company was built around the idea that you won't always smell as good as you want to, and you won't always have easy access to a bottle of cologne or perfume. Nowadays, teenagers and young adults are stressed about every little thing. Does my hair look good? Will they like my clothes? Do I smell good? But with this bracelet, you want to worry about smelling good again.
Hello, Sharks. My name is Trent Maffeo, also a co-founder of Ether Bracelets. This bracelet is not just your average bracelet. If you are ever out and you just realize you don't smell pretty, just apply a scent from the bracelet. The way it works is, in the middle section, there are 2 buttons, one for your cologne smell and one for natural smell, as you can see on screen here. The natural smells can include French vanilla, cinnamon, and lavender, and many others, just to name a few. The straps are also interchangeable, allowing you to choose from differently colored leather, soft rubber, and bead straps, allowing your bracelet to adapt to whatever style you choose from.
This bracelet is not only a good gift for males, it is a perfect gift for females as well. There are many different colors and styles to fit any young woman's need in your life. On top of that, this bracelet is very sleek and will not overwhelm the user. Studies have shown that scents help with calming and memory. So, if you're in the middle of a big exam or an important Shark Tank, just spray, take a deep breath, and relax.
Competing products such as Axe and Old Spice make these bottles for the teenagers and young adults, reflecting a huge demand from that audience. The problem with these products is that they're not necessarily made to be portable. Sure, you could argue that they may fit in your pocket, but they are big, clunky, and they'll just stick out like a sore thumb. Not to mention the spray itself will degrade in potency over time, not being more noticeable as time goes on, unless you get up close, which will make your date awkward. On top of that, it would be expensive to actually get a spray that would last a while. So with this bracelet, not only will it be portable, but you will also be enabled to actually reapply the scent over time, and it'll be cheap and affordable.
Out of 100 young teenagers and young adults polled so far, 76 said they would wear this bracelet if it were readily available. A few of their concerns came with the pricing and the size of it. The pricing is dependent on the size of bracelet, so it's going to be between $20 and $30, and the materials you get. We will have leather bracelets, beads, and a rubber adjustable strap. The leather and the beads will obviously be more expensive because they're more of an expensive material than the rubber strap. For the sizing of that, when you order the bracelet or you order your monthly subscription, you choose the sizes that you would like.
Sharks, we are asking for a funding of $250. We cannot allow any more dates to suffer from stench any longer. This funding will be used to create the capsules, the material for the bracelet, and the mechanism that releases the spray itself.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
So is this refillable by the consumer, or do you buy it and use it and then get a new one?
Yes, it is refillable. We will actually have these capsules be bought like in monthly subscription packs or just by retail.
So if I heard you correctly, and I apologize, you said it is refillable.
Yes.
So a couple of questions. One, what happens if the consumer decides to change the fragrance?
So
Do you end up with a really stinky, like a blend of two?
Yeah. No, so his meaning by refillable is that we're going to sell capsules that you can put inside of the bracelet. That's the refillable part of it, so they don't just have to throw the bracelet away every time. So you can buy the capsules either through the subscription or monthly that you place inside of it, but the capsules themselves will not be refillable by any of your desired scents.
But you don't think that the bracelet itself will, over time, absorb the smell of what's being sprayed out of it, such that if I then change the capsule, I'm now blending a different smell with the smell that's already on the bracelet?
Yes, it probably would, but that's why we have interchangeable straps. So you can take off the straps and put new ones on if that scent gets too much, and then you can order the strap, say, again after that, which will be a longer extended period of time, that you can order it and replace it and put it back on.
And do you actually take, being one who never wears cologne,
Yeah.
do you take it and you move the bracelet around like this, spraying it? How do you...
I'll explain this part. So basically, it will release the scent onto your wrist. You could just, so you could just leave it where it is, but you could also just spread it around so it's over on your body.
All right. So you dispense it yourself. In other words, you spray it onto your hand, and then you...
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Again, I have no clue, so...
You're good.
Okay, so is the purpose of this to spray the scent onto your wrist or onto anywhere on your body?
It's more of an anywhere onto your body, but if you want it on your wrist, you can spray it onto your wrist.
Okay. So what would be preventing a user from taking it or taking a small spray bottle and just carrying that in their purse, so if they ever wanted to give themselves a little spritz, like perfume, so to say, they could just spray themselves with essential oil? Like, what's the actual purpose of having the device be a wearable?
Well, see, with a bottle, it may just stick out in your pocket, and you may not want to take it out because some of them are large and clunky. So we designed the bracelet so that it would fit within your style, while also giving you that ability to spray the cologne on yourself.
On top of that, if you put a bottle in your purse, that's going to take up a lot of space in your purse, and you're not going to just go out in the middle of anywhere and just spray it all over you. Say you're at dinner and you're like, I don't smell good. You don't want to just pull it out and spray it on you in the middle of a table. On your wrist, you'll have it more concealed, so it's smaller and doesn't have that big aerosol spray and it spreads out. It'll be smaller and more controlled, and then you don't have to reach into your purse and pull it out and waste that much space when it's already on your wrist.
Okay, and what does your business model and revenue stream look like? Have you given any thought to if you're going for a subscription-based service versus a buy-on-demand type service? What does it look like for you guys?
So we're going to have a monthly subscription if you want to, but the bracelets and the scents can be sold individually at different Target or Walmart or different stores like that.
So I really enjoy the cologne that I use currently. Would I have to select from colognes that you are putting out there in the capsules, or would I be able to fill it with my own scent?
So we would want you to buy our own products to maximize our profits in return, but we will have many different colognes for you to choose from. So hopefully you would find one that's close to yours, or if not the same as yours, that you can use. We are looking to try to partner with different Old Spice and clones, if we're able to have it in our pods, so you don't have to change from what your Ready cologne is, and you can already have it on your wrist.
How many spritzes do you get before you have to change capsules?
So,
roughly, we have been debating that, but with the volume, we're thinking roughly 3 to 4.
Around 3 to 4. It's like a little capsule to make sure that the size of it on your wrist isn't too big and too clunky, and so it's out on top. It's more of a sleek bracelet.
And how much would you sell the leather, the bead, and the rubber units for?
So overall, the original would be the costing price would be around $20 to $30. And obviously, the $30 would be more the leather and the higher end beads. And then for the interchangeable band, we're looking for around $20 per the leather and the bead bands. But for the rubber strap, it's going to be cheaper because they're cheaper to make and they're easier to make.
Again, I apologize because you may have already answered the question, but the actual capsule itself,
Yes.
I assume it's going to vary in price depending on what's inside of it?
Yes.
And do you have a guesstimate as to what that would cost the consumer?
Well, since colognes and natural smells are very cheap to make as it is, it'd be around for us to make around 5 cents that's a cent. The capsule is around probably 10. So we'd probably sell it for $2 for a pack of 3, or obviously for a bigger pack, you'd sell it for a little more.
Yeah. We could also vary the packs to go anywhere from maybe 10 to 20. It could really vary on the amount, and we could actually reduce the price overall so it's more appealing to the consumer.
Out of curiosity, what do you anticipate your cost will be to produce the gazillions of different fragrances that people over time are going to want? I mean, because if you only have 3 fragrances, you're not going to sell to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
the ones we listed are just examples of a few examples of what we have for a current list of them.
Yep.
Now we don't have an exact idea of how many scents we would have available at launch, but we plan to start with around 10 to 20 and then expand that number.
I'm feeling better now that it was over. The questioning was shorter than I expected, and the pitch went pretty well. I mean, I messed up in a couple spots, but I just kept going.
Yeah, it was honestly. I actually felt confident all throughout. In the beginning, I was a little nervous because I was afraid I wouldn't remember some parts of the pitch, and I did trip over and stumble in some parts. But overall, when it comes to the questioning, I think we have a better idea now of what the business model will be and what our final product would look like.
I feel a little nervous. How do you guys feel? Definitely nervous, but I'm confident that we'll be able to go and do our best. We've put a lot of work and preparation into this, and I'm confident that we'll be able to do our best.
Yeah, a little bit of nervous, but also confident that we know our pitch. How about you?
I think our pitch will be pretty solid. I think we're worried about the question part, but I think that's what everybody's struggling with, so go out there and do our best.
Over the past 9 months, we've become more aware of the sanitation practices in our day-to-day lives.
People are finally realizing the lack of thorough sanitization protocols and are less willing to ride on public transportation because of the threats to personal health.
We need a way to minimize health risks when using public transit in order to return to the day-to-day normalcy that we once knew.
The coronavirus emergency and a look at ways to reduce your risk while you travel.
How do you avoid getting sick this season?
Could more people ditch cars altogether?
Maybe you're feeling comfy enough to get on a plane to a faraway escape. Well, it might be harder than you think.
We're about to test the place with the dirtiest reputation
What
of
spots
all.
will be the dirtiest? What spots will be the cleanest? We have never seen
North
results
of the
like
U.S.,
this.
Canada has extended its travel restrictions and won't allow most foreign nationals to travel into Canada.
Thousands of surfaces and might not even realize.
Next into the tank is Jessica Thibodeau, Lauren Brooks, and Preston Neal. Jessica, currently ranked 3rd in her class, has been designated as a National Merit semifinalist and is a 3-sport varsity athlete. She has been a captain and the #1 player on the varsity tennis team since her sophomore year and is in 3 honor societies, serving as co-president of the Science National Honor Society. She is also the treasurer of the senior class and a member of JAGSAT and Model UN. Lauren, a highly ambitious student ranked in the top 10% of her class, is a 3-sport athlete, 4-year varsity letterman, and captain of the varsity soccer team. She is the co-president of the Science National Honor Society and treasurer of both the National Honor Society and the Mu Alpha Theta Mathematics Honor Society. Lauren is currently an intern at Active Med Practices and Research and aspires to be a medical scientist. Preston is an academically and athletically inclined student that ranks in the top 5% of his class. He is an honors and AP student and a member of both Student Council and the National Honor Society. He is a 3-year starter and 2-year captain of the varsity soccer team. Preston is planning to study graphic design in college.
Good evening, Sharks. My name is Lauren.
My name is Jess.
And my name is Preston.
And we are the creators of Elimigerms.
We are asking for $400 to fund the development of our product.
Over the past 9 months, we've all been forced into creating a new day-to-day normalcy because of the coronavirus pandemic.
One way or another, COVID-19 has forced us all to become more self-aware of our day-to-day sanitation and hygiene practices.
Our product, Elimigerms, or germs eliminated through electronic motion sensor, makes the practice of cleaning highly trafficked areas much more efficient.
In a survey of almost 300 New Hampshire residents, 95% of participants believe that public transportation is not thoroughly sanitized, and 75% of the participants in our survey said that they ride public transportation less now because of the pandemic. Our product will solve these problems.
In a modern setting, individuals have flocked to the idea of do-it-yourself projects. People find more comfort and more satisfaction in completing a task themselves.
We have created a do-it-yourself way to clean your seat in order to make people feel more comfortable than if another individual was in charge of sanitizing their seating area.
Our product will not only make the sanitization process more thorough, but it will also allow people to trust that they are not putting their health at risk.
Currently on the market, there is one dry-on contact sanitizing spray produced by the company Sanigard, as shown here on the board. This spray has been proven to kill up to 99.99% of 40 various germs, bacteria, fungi, and viruses in mere seconds.
Our product will utilize the Sanigard sanitizing spray and will attach to the back of any car seat. It also has the potential to expand further to bathroom stall doors, trains, or other public locations where there is a high risk for germ transmission. The possibilities are endless.
Sharks, will you please direct your attention to the screen to view a virtual model of our product? As shown, there are 2 sections to the Elimigerms. In red is the compartment for the spray and the connector cap, and in blue is the dispenser rod. Additionally, in front of you is the very first 3D printed model of our product on a small scale.
To use our product, all the user has to do is place the can of Sanigard into the compartment. Once the can is in the compartment, the user can attach the top of the can to our connector cap. This connector cap contains a servo that connects multiple dispenser tubes to the top of that single can.
The 6-tube lead will carry the spray to 6 unique dispensation areas located along the dispenser rod. 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side, and 2 in the middle.
The upper location of each pair will be oriented straight forward, allowing the backrest of the seat to be sprayed, and the bottom location of each pair will be oriented slightly downwards, allowing for the bottom of the seat to be covered.
To dispense the aerosol, all the user has to do is swipe their hand over the installed motion sensor that will be located on the top left-hand side of the dispenser bar.
Once the spray has been activated, a 3-second countdown will begin, and a 3-light display will beep, from green to yellow to red, to warn the user of dispensation.
After the red light blinks, a simple servo will cause a block to press down onto the actuator of the nozzle. This will then cause the aerosol to dispense for a set amount of time.
Our product will revolutionize the way that people sanitize and help the public transportation industry boom once again.
And we want you, Sharks, to join us on this journey.
So just so I understand it correctly. The dispenser is located, in this case, on the back of the seat. The person has to get into the vehicle in order to wave their hand or for it to sense their presence. It then warns them that it's about to spray and they get out of the way.
So the user should be able to just stick their hand in the car and just wave their hand over it and then see the actual spray sanitizing the seat.
And what happens if the people are then sitting in the vehicle and there's a little kid and they're waving their arms around, this kind of thing? How do you stop it from spraying?
So our sensor, obviously we wanted to put it in a location where obviously it's not going off if you're just sitting in it. So on top, we feel like was the most likely scenario where you're not going to have someone most likely reach into the headrest and just waving their hands there. So again, orienting that in a way where people aren't going to be flailing their arms in a way to make it accidentally go off.
And out of curiosity, what do you anticipate is the distance that the 6 nozzle spray can how far can it spray and to get to the seat, the back of the seat, whatever, the door handles, you know?
So part of what we want the money for is to be able to actually buy this spray and with trial and error figure out the ideal distance that it can make and potentially adding a throttle valve to increase any pressure that is needed to make it go a further distance.
We're planning on having on the side, on the back of the car seat, so in a sedan or something, the seats are much closer, it will be able to spray. In something like an SUV, we're looking to adding a model that would actually go on the back behind, so it would easily spray down on the seat, but in a sedan or something smaller where you can't necessarily fit it behind you, in front would be a better approach.
And what about in public transportation?
What?
What about in public transportation? You mentioned trains, buses.
So
would it be on the back of every seat?
Our target audience is obviously like Uber, Lyft, taxi, so for cars. And that initial design is, again, the seat that you put it on isn't the seat that it sanitizes. So if you think about a subway, there's obviously seats that are lined up behind each other. There's also seats that are located on the side. So those wouldn't get sanitized by a seat in front of it. So again, redesign is something we'd have to look at if we were to approach something like a subway.
Yeah, we're looking into more models for something further, but this is just the first design, and as we approach other things like trains, we would have something for the back.
I know you're kind of in the infancy of considering trains, but that aspect does really interest me as an avid public transportation user. Trains are pretty much filled up these days. It's not uncommon to, in the middle of a pandemic, find a train with 0 open seats. Maybe you do have that 1 open seat that you go and take. Is there any way for this aerosol that you could think of to reduce the inconvenience to other people that are also riding that train?
So if you're talking about in terms of sanitation, so some subways and public transportation like that, like the best way I can describe it to you is basically like a blow dryer that uses an aerosol. And if they are looking to clean it, then they basically walk around and basically spray that aerosol with a kind of leaf blower to describe it to you. So I mean, we would obviously be willing to, again, supply this to something like a subway industry to put on the seats that they could. But that's the most that we could help with that. That's why, again, we're targeting the car industry instead.
Okay, and have you also considered the ramifications of putting this aerosol on different sorts of materials such as plastic, cloth, leather, and what type of absorption you would have and germ killing effectiveness that you would have in each of those materials? Would you have to maybe modify the dispensation volume a little bit from material to material, etc.?
Yeah, so since it's a dry-on contact spray, it's not gonna stay on the surface and just sit there like soaking wet. But we would definitely look into different surfaces. We're willing to, again, research into that, the different surfaces, cloth versus leather, other things like that. But we think that since it's a dry-on contact, the principle stays pretty much the same.
And that was a huge part of why we picked this sanitizing spray over something else, was because of that dry-on contact and try to eliminate anything that could wear and tear on leather or any other nice fabric.
Have you guys done any looking into the health risks of inhaling this? If you imagine this to be used in high traffic areas, what are the health risks of inhaling aerosol?
Right, so like something like SaniGuard, that's even something that we thought about. So why would you, again, want to put an aerosol into a car that doesn't dry on contact? So the dry on contact, again, like nobody wants to get into the car. If we had not done a dry on contact sanitizing spray, that sprays onto the seat, and of course you're gonna sit and you might inhale that aerosol that's in the air, or it's just sitting on the seat and it's wet. So again, like using a dry on contact, we're kind of looking into, okay, that kind of gets rid of those certain effects.
Okay.
Initially, if you spray it down, it would just go on the seat. It's not going to spray out towards the middle of the train or anything. It'll just spray down to the seat. So it's not, and people are willing to have their seat sanitized versus inhaling, say, the coronavirus or getting that on there.
And I know that SaniGuard also on their website has a section about safety about that, and they did talk a little bit about how this isn't going to be a huge health risk with the chemical-wise.
Have you given any thought to mounting the unit, let's say, onto the front of the headrest and have it spray straight down onto the back of the seat and then the bottom of the seat? And also it would go in this, outward like this to cover potentially the door handles, the window, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so for sure we wanted to look into that. Obviously, one of the big things, if you put it on the back of your seat, obviously you're putting something behind your head, and you don't always want that. We thought about, most cars have a headrest you can lift up, so what if we fit it under their headrest? But some seats, like in the back of the car, the headrest doesn't move, or sometimes there isn't a headrest. So in the back of the car, there's nowhere to put it. And so again, the design that we had was to spray the seat behind, more for users getting into a car for Uber and taxi like that.
We're definitely considering that, though. The only issue we ran into was getting it to spray the very back of the seat. So we were, again, if we get funding, we'd like to look into an additional model where we can add it to the back and spray it down to the back, but right now.
So is there actually evidence that seats are vectors of disease? It seems to me that it's things that you touch more than an actual seat, meaning, like the things in front of me I would worry about, but the seat is not a high-risk item. In fact, doctors say that people don't really get diseases from toilet seats, never mind cloth seats and trains.
Right, so looking into something like that, obviously you have people that might walk around with hand sanitizer, and that's how they take care of themselves, and touching door handles and things like that. Obviously you can't use hand sanitizer to clean the seat of the car that you're going to get into, so we kind of thought of a way, how can we help someone, again, feel more comfortable in their sitting space. For a door handle, they might sanitize, and they might be able to sanitize with a personal hand sanitizer bottle when they get into the car, when they shut the door, or when they get out. So again, something like that. This is more targeting just the car itself.
And it adds a peace of mind. I know that when I was traveling, I saw people taking out a disinfectant and just a wipe and wiping down their seat. I think that our product would eliminate that nervousness when it comes to traveling, that, like we said in our survey, 75% of people ride public transportation less now because they're worried about sanitation.
Do you have a guesstimate as to what your cost will be to make the unit, the electronics, the sensors, and everything else?
So after mass distribution, we think that we could get it down under $10.
Okay, and so if you're going to be selling this to Uber-type services, if you can what does the adoption curve look like in getting this into Uber's cars, if they currently have methods that are already working?
Again, it was to target like the Uber driver itself, for them to make their user feel more comfortable.
They could have the attachment on their car and have it say on the app, this has Elimi germs in the car, so people are more apt to ride that car. So it's a small investment. We're looking to make the product cost $30 to $35 for the driver to have and invest in their own car and create more company like traveling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we went really good. Our pitch was very smooth. There was really no mistakes, and we knew all the answers to the questions that they asked us, and so I'm pretty confident with how we did.
I'm pretty confident as well. I think that we did a nice job answering the questions, bouncing off of each other. The pitch went well. We practiced that a lot together, so I think it went smoothly.
Yeah, we were definitely worried about the question part the most, but I think we killed that part.
I think that I needed to make my answers a little more clear. I think I just kind of at the end, just stop talking like that.
I think I just wish we had more time to really look into the design of our product, but I think we did good with the timeline that we had.
I think all of us are prepared. Like we all know our lines, and we all know the technology we need. So I think we're feeling good.
I feel pretty good about this.
I'm Brian Bierke, co-founder of The Field.
I'm Jeffrey Draper, co-founder of The Field.
I'm Nick Antonucci, co-founder of The Field.
And we present to you The Field.
Nick wants to know how fast his lacrosse shot was. And I want to know how far I hit that baseball. But I also want to know the flight path of that golf ball. Anyone want to know how fast Jeff kicks a soccer ball? Or how far he can kick a football? or even how fast that slap shot was. The Field is a new and innovative way of finding all of this information for all of these sports at the comfort of your own home.
Next into the tank is Brian Bierke, Jeff Draper, and Nick Antonucci. Brian, currently ranked in the top 20% of his class, has completed 13 STEM classes, most of which at the honors and AP level. He is also a member of the Math, Science, and Spanish National Honor Societies, is part of the academic clubs DECA, in which he qualified for a national event, and JAGSAT. Aside from academics, Brian is also a 4-year, 2-sport varsity athlete for the ski team and the baseball team, and has been a baseball captain for the past 2 years. Jeff is an academic bazooka, ranked in the top 12% of his class, and a member of the National, Math, Science, and Spanish Honor Societies, as well as SALT. Jeff has taken numerous AP and honors classes. Outside of academics, Jeff has been a member of the soccer team, basketball team, and is captain of the volleyball team. Nick is an academically and athletically focused student ranked in the top 17% of his senior class and involved in a large variety of clubs. Nick is involved in both the Science and Math Honor Societies as well as SALT. He is in a number of honors and AP classes, is a varsity soccer player, a 3rd-year varsity wrestler, and is currently the captain of the varsity wrestling team.
Hello, Sharks. My name is Brian Bierke.
I'm Jeff Draper.
And I'm Nick Antonucci.
The three of us are high-achieving seniors at WHS.
And we are here to present to you
The Field.
Being athletes and sports fans ourselves, we want to improve sports training across a wide variety of sports. And especially in today's world with this pandemic, it can be very hard to gather with other people. And when you're by yourself hitting, kicking, or shooting a ball into a net, it's impossible to track the exact speed and the distance that ball traveled. Therefore, it can be difficult to see evidence of improvement.
Now, one device you could use is a radar gun. However, these are very expensive as well as impractical to use by yourself. Radar guns can cost as much as $500 and require another person to hold the gun, which during a pandemic can be very unsafe as well as inconvenient. Not to mention, the Field measures much more than just a plain old radar gun. The Field measures distance, trajectory, as well as velocity. The Field allows you to cheaply and safely improve as an athlete.
So our idea is to set up a 24 gigahertz precise motion sensor behind the person using the ball so that there's no reason the sensor can get hit by the ball. So our sensors will pick up the initial speed and the angle of the ball, and with this we can find the final distance and the final speed of the ball. But you might be wondering, what if you hit a really, really nice shot? Wouldn't you want to watch it fly away or see it on your mobile phone? Well, yes, now that you can, because our sensors will hook up to a mobile app on your phone that will give you a visual representation of the shot you just hit, as well as it will give you the speed and the distance that it takes. Being athletes ourselves, we know that it's really satisfying to hit a great shot and watch it fly away. The Field can give you this by showing you the path the ball takes, as well as the speed and the distance.
We decided to use this motion sensor because the motion sensor will emit waves, and when these waves strike an object, such as the ball, they'll deflect back into the motion detector. And this motion sensor is going to be more practical to use than other technologies, such as infrared. Because the infrared transmitters and receivers, they're always going to have to be perfectly lined up with one another. And for the consumer, that could be a real hassle and a pain in the neck to keep readjusting them to get them perfectly in place. And as we mentioned earlier, radar guns can be very expensive. And the specific motion sensor we're looking at only costs $20.
So our product is mostly designed for football kickers, golfers, lacrosse players, soccer players, baseball players, hockey players, and basically any other athlete that wants to improve their skills. The youth sports market is absolutely booming over the last couple of years, and due to the pandemics, kids are having a hard time trying to stay outside and be active. Well, with the Field, kids can find a great way to exercise and improve their skills in the sport they want to do.
As Nick said, the youth sports market is absolutely booming. And our studies show that in the next 6 years, the youth sports market will grow by $5.7 billion, or roughly 30%. Not to mention, in the last 10 years, the market for at-home sports devices has also grown by 24%. We surveyed our own community, and we discovered that 95% of people would be interested in purchasing a device similar to the Field. The Field allows kids to become active again and still maintain a socially distanced lifestyle. Plus, if you're putting in time to get better, you want to see results, and the Field does just that.
So Sharks, we're asking for $300 to build a fully functional prototype. And on the screen would be a picture of our mobile app and a 3D model of our prototype. And Sharks, thank you for listening to us, and with your investment, I can guarantee we will knock this product out of the park.
So what kind of range and resolution do you think this product will achieve?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
So how accurately can you determine, the direction and speed of the ball that you're monitoring?
Well, we haven't done any testing on the motion sensor yet and our technology, but on the website and talking to people in the company of the motion sensor, it makes it seem like it is a very accurate motion sensor, even at high velocities.
And what do you think the cost of this product will be?
As in the cost of the finished product, or how much it'll cost to build the prototype?
Both.
Right now, we're estimating it will cost $200 to build the prototype.
And the cost in production, meaning what will you sell it for and what would your production cost be?
Well, right now we don't know exactly how much production costs would decrease because we haven't done that much research, but
I mean, if we had to take an estimate, we would say that it would roughly take like $200 to build, and then we would sell it for roughly like $250.
Oh, that's pretty expensive.
I mean, it's a pretty high-tech device.
Even though if we sell for $250, it's still less expensive than a radar gun, which does less than what our product achieves.
Okay. I suspect you could achieve a much lower price.
So let me ask, in the 3D rendering of the motion sensor, where, for example, would that be placed when looking at someone hitting a ball? It's baseball, so the pitch and then the hit, the swing. Where would it be located?
We're planning to have the sensor placed behind the person, and this isn't necessarily designed for like in-game use, so a pitcher
I
actually
understand.
pitching.
Right.
It would be like a baseball player hitting a ball off the tee.
Yeah. Right. And how does it differentiate between the ball's movement and the bat's swinging movement? Because two things are moving at the same time. Right. How does it differentiate which is which to know? Because they're going to be moving at different speeds.
Right.
Well, that's a very good question, and it's something that even like a radar gun struggles with sometimes. So we'd have to do some testing with that, and we could get back to you on that.
Would it make sense to have multiple sensors with one small computing device that could correlate the data?
Yeah, that is also why our initial investment would be $300, just because we wanted to experiment with a couple of motion sensors so we could find like the optimal placement for them.
I assume that in the case of soccer or lacrosse, it would be at the net.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these would be wearable motion sensors?
The motion sensors are wearable? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
No, the motion sensor, we wanted to place it behind the person, so like not physically attached to them, but behind them, so it would measure, we wanted to just look at the ball, but as was just brought up, it may measure something else. It's like the bat speed.
For $250, I want this to be able to tell me a little bit more than how fast my ball is traveling and the distance that it travels. I'm looking for some information on my performance as well, AKA, if I swing the bat at this angle, in what direction will it go? What is my best parameter that I can vary on my side of things to provide the best possible performance of the ball? One thing that I'm thinking is you may be able to develop some sort of optical imaging program that could analyze that in real time and provide feedback on that based off the movement of maybe pixelation or whatever you have as your technology. Have you done any sample software development for that sort of thing to provide feedback on the user performance as well?
No, we haven't started developing any software or anything like that yet.
To go further on that same question, part of the complexity is that the end of the bat swings much faster than the end of the bat that you're holding. And so again, you have to be able to differentiate which is which, whereas taking the visual approach and analyzing that, again, for example, pixels, as they change, would make it a lot more accurate and would actually probably bring the price much lower down.
Well,
I mean, it's much like the way professional baseball, they have 10 cameras that sit there and watch the ball go from the pitcher to the catcher, and it calculates the speed. I mean, there's lots of ways of doing it, but that's one of them.
Yeah. Well, when we were researching, we were thinking about using cameras like that and the high-speed cameras, but we found them to be very expensive and would cost way more than the $250.
Yeah, I believe the base sensor that you're talking about is in large volumes under $10, significantly under $10. And to answer Kenny's question, I believe the sensors they're looking at are actually multiple receiver Doppler things, so they can actually resolve multiple objects.
What does your production timeline look like?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating that one more time?
Sure. What does your production timeline look like in terms of, say, okay, you're going to build this product, you have, say, 6 months to do it. What are going to be the key KPIs and deliverables over the next 6 months?
Okay, so like the key capabilities that sets it apart from a radar gun is that it's a little bit more cheap and it's a little bit easier to use by yourself during this age of COVID-19. But also the fact that it will connect to a mobile app on your phone so that you can see the path that the ball travels. And so going back on your question, where if you could swing at different bat angles, so to work on that, you could try swinging at one angle, see how fast it goes, see how far the ball goes, see the travel, the flight path, and then hit it at a different angle and see that. So it's a great way to really compare and work on your skill, even at home and by yourself.
And I think the most important part of this product is obviously the technology, and I think we would need to spend a large part of the original 6 months developing it, the motion sensors, the Arduino, and everything that's going into this product to really get accurate results and measuring the ball and nothing else.
And have you done much user testing with youth in sports and just getting their feedback from using or seeing what other devices are out there that they're currently using?
Well, like I said in our pitch, the youth sports market is supposed to grow by $5.7 billion in the next 6 years, and we also did a survey on athletes at Wyndham High School, and a vast majority of them were interested in purchasing a device similar to it, if that helps answer your question.
And one product we found that was almost similar to our product was the TrackMan baseball, but that's only baseball specific, and it is much, much more expensive than our product.
So does this product require a phone to be used with it, or does it do something in a standalone mode?
Well, the phone would only be used to actually see your data, such as the velocity, the distance, and the trajectory. But other than that, no, the phone would be used.
It sounds like you need a phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Shari.
I would say that definitely the biggest thing we learned from this was being able to think quickly on your feet, because they ask some difficult questions out there, and you have to be able to think critically and be able to answer the questions as best as possible. So I'd say.
Yeah, definitely that. And I'm thinking working together as a team to answer the question, so
definitely.
we wouldn't be relying on just the one person to answer the question, but all three of us could contribute to it.
Yeah.
Whoa. Well, Charlie, your x-rays came back, and by the looks of things, your leg is broken. This is going to mean two things for you in the following couple of months. First off, we're going to put you in a cast. Then, we're going to need you to follow some weight restrictions that you cannot exceed on your leg for your leg to heal properly.
I'm way too busy for this. It doesn't even hurt. I'm fine. Anyways, how am I supposed to tell what 10% pressure on my foot even is? I haven't been listening.
Charlie, focus. Listen to what I'm saying. Did you hear me? If you do not follow these rules, your leg is not going to heal properly, and it's going to take more time for it to heal. Well, Charlie, after looking at your x-rays now, it obviously hasn't progressed much. You obviously were not following my rules, and you're going to have to stay in a cast for longer.
But Dr. LaRocco, how am I supposed to know what 10% pressure is? That's why we made the Healing Helper.
Next into the tank is Charlie Breen and Owen LaRocco. Charlie is in the top third of his class, taking many AP and STEM classes during his time at Windham High School. He hopes to attend a college in the area for engineering management. Outside of academics, Charlie has played 3 sports during all 4 years of his time at WHS and is currently a 3-sport varsity athlete in hockey, baseball, and soccer, where he is a team captain. Owen is ranked in the top 12% of his senior class. He is part of the National, Math, and Spanish Honor Societies, where he is treasurer. Owen is aspiring to go to college in New England as a mechanical engineering major. Outside of academics, he is a 3-sport varsity athlete, where he plays baseball, soccer, and hockey at the varsity level throughout the year.
Hello, Sharks. My name is Charlie.
My name is Owen, and today we are introducing you to the newest innovation in medical technology.
We have come up with a new and innovative way to assist doctors and nurses in the healing process of injuries below the waist.
This problem came up when I was talking to a family friend of mine who is a nurse practitioner. She has to deal with lower body injuries in patients who have partial weight bearing and non-weight bearing injuries pretty much every day. This means that a patient is restricted to only putting a fraction of their weight on their foot or leg. The problem is she has no way of knowing if a patient is following her rules for the recovery process or not.
So a huge part of the recovery process for injuries below the waist is rest. A patient needs to give their body a break and keep off of the injury, or only put the assigned amount of pressure as told so by their doctor. If this part of the recovery process is ignored, or they put more pressure on the injury than the doctor told them to, then they can cause this recovery process to be even longer, or even worse, make it so that their injury doesn't heal the same as it was before.
Let's take my partner Charlie here, for example. Let's say Charlie slips on ice and breaks his ankle. The doctor's going to give him crutches and tell him to only put 10% of his weight on his foot. Now, my friend Charlie here is an amazing math and physics student, so unlike most people, he has no problem calculating how much pressure he should be putting on his foot. Although he might virtually be a genius, he also has a giant ego and thinks he's too tough to rest that injury.
Yes, Owen, I may be an amazing math and physics student, but I, with my giant ego, would never listen to the doctor's orders, and I know I would bend the rules that they gave me. And I know I am not the only person that bends the doctor's rules, as 90% of the people that we surveyed said that they bend the doctor's orders too, and weren't also sure how to gauge how much pressure to put on their injuries.
This is a major flaw in the recovery process. A doctor is assuming that Charlie is staying off of his foot and healing his injury, but they have no way of knowing if he is or not.
This is where the Healing Helper falls into place. The Healing Helper is the all-new way in which doctors and nurses are able to regulate and control how much pressure they want their patient putting on their injury. We wanted to make this device affordable, functional, and be able to use in anything from a shoe all the way to an orthopedic boot. When coming up with a pressure sensor, Owen and I wanted to find something that was very cheap and very small. And the best thing that we came up with was a strain gauge. This strain gauge will then be connected to a microprocessor, battery, and an LED light. This microprocessor will have a few functions when it comes to input and output.
The doctors are going to be able to input a certain amount of weight that they do not want a patient exceeding. If we circle back to the example of my friend Charlie here, the doctor could input, let's say, 10% of his absolutely massive 90-pound frame. This input value will then be downloaded into the software of our microprocessor. Our system now has a threshold weight of 9 pounds, and the LED light will be set off if that threshold weight is reached. While this is happening, our system will also record how many times the LED light was set off and record that information and give it back to the doctors and nurses through our mobile app.
So from this mobile app, the doctors and patients can then see how well the patient did on following the doctor's orders. So by the next time the patient comes to the doctor's office, they take out their phone,
open the mobile app, and show the doctor their stats. The doctor is then able to assess and see, hey, does this person maybe need to stay on the healing helper a little bit longer, or are they ready to take the healing helper off and walk normally again?
Sharks, we're asking for $300 to build a working prototype and bring our idea to life. Thank you for your time, and hopefully with your assistance, we can help all of our doctors and nurses out there.
So how does the data get from your foot to your phone?
So that's something so the microprocessor that we were looking at is an Arduino Nano with BLE. So it would record the information and get that through in the microprocessor and then send that to your phone through Bluetooth.
And what's the battery life?
The battery life, so that's something that we've been researching a lot, and we figured, I believe it was 13 watt hours, and we figured over, say, a 6-week span, give or take, we found a battery which is a CR2032, I believe, which is a small coin cell battery, one that you put in your watch. It's very small, and it will be able to last that 6-week period.
I believe you're off by over an order of magnitude in that calculation.
Did we say there? I think we said there's two. There's two batteries. From like those watch batteries, we had 2 of them.
They hold nowhere close to 13 watt hours.
Oh, I might have the number wrong then, but I remember, sorry, the calculations we did, we found that the small watch batteries would be able to support like a 6-week period.
Okay.
The cast is this big, there's not room for it.
Yeah, I guess.
Did you have more?
Go ahead.
One of the things you might want to consider is the Arduino could go to sleep, and you could, with the motion sensor, it could wake back up again.
Yeah.
So that way, it's when the person's laying in bed and they're moving around, whatever, sometimes people, or they're getting out of bed, you can't stop how much pressure they're going to put on at that point. But that's when it wakes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's something we'd definitely be willing to look into if we got funded with this.
And out of curiosity, how does the user, doctor, that whole group, how do they pair their computer or app at the doctor's office to the cast that gets put on, and then how does the patient pair to record?
I'm not exactly sure how the sensor connects to a phone through Bluetooth.
No, I get that part. I understand it's Bluetooth, but you're pairing one device to multiple things, which it supports. I get that too. But someone has to implement it.
Are you saying like multiple, like the doctor's phone to multiple, like?
Yeah, the doctor's going to download into it.
So we were trying to have it be the patient's phone, so then the patient could have that information with them at all time, and they would show the doctor their information when they go to the office next time.
Right, but does the doctor use the patient's phone to load the weight?
Yeah.
The allowable weight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you considered the implications of what putting a strain gauge on someone's foot would have, just in terms of like, if you're a patient that you need to have good balance, you need to make sure that you're walking properly, how would that affect the gait of the person?
So that's something that we've had also trouble trying to figure out, but we found that strain gauges are extremely thin, and one of the things we'd like to experiment with if we got funding is whether you can put it right on top of the bottom of the boot, so it's right under the foot, or you would have to actually put it inside of the sole of the boot, so where you can like find the place where it's like the least impact on how you're standing.
So a strain gauge works by sensing the strain of the substrate it's attached to. If you attach it to something that is not very well understood, you have an interesting calibration problem. Have you thought about how you would address that?
We haven't thought about that exactly, but we're thinking it's something that it's going to be like proportional to the amount of pressure you put on. So it's something that would the doctors would be able to see how much pressure they're putting on proportional to the amount of current that's coming from it.
Yes.
So do you plan to only have this in use on the orthopedic shoe that is the same material all the time, or do you plan to compensate for different parts of the healing process where a patient may be able to use regular shoes, however they still want to be aware of where they are in the healing process and how much pressure they're putting on? Because that question about the substrate does interest me as well. you would have to be compensating for the elasticity of a lot of different types of materials. And have you given any consideration to that?
Yeah, so originally what we want to, like with this funding, if we get it, we want to start working with the orthopedic boot, and then hopefully we figure that out, and hopefully we can move on from there, working on incorporating in like shoes and other footwear.
We're trying to hopefully make it so it can go from anything from a boot to a cast to a shoe, so that no matter where you are in the recovery process, it will be able to be used.
So I hate to digress a little bit, but have you given any thought to how you can broaden the use of the product? And by that I mean, instead of having a strain gauge, if you had a way of measuring motion, then it could be also used for shoulder injuries, arm injuries, whatever, and the interface between the doctor and the unit and the patient's phone pretty much stays the same. It's just the sensor that changes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, we really haven't thought about that yet. We really just focus on foot injuries, but we certainly would be like open to just changing the sensor up maybe, and then looking at other parts of the body too.
That's something we were thinking about, like wrist injuries, elbow injuries, anything from that, but it would be tough for us to like get enough funding for make different sensors for all of that from here. So if we were able to bring the product further, that's definitely something we would look into.
For data sharing, have you considered things like Google Fit and other applications that already take input from a variety of other medical sensors?
No, we haven't really considered that yet, but it sounds like a very good idea. We really just stick with the patient having it on their mobile phone for security purposes, because we didn't want to risk like their information getting stolen or anything. So we really just tried to keep it on their mobile app, so it was just them bringing it to the doctor's office themselves and not like risk it being stolen or anything.
Okay.
So depending on how much attention the patient is paying to whatever alarm there is, they may or may not notice that blinking light that gives them feedback saying, okay, you're putting too much pressure, ease up a little bit. Do you have any plans to put any sort of similarly sized alarm that may grab the patient's attention a little bit more?
That's another thing that we've been discussing back and forth a lot, was whether a light or a sound or like a little vibration, and it's something that we'd want to experiment with if we got the funding. We just, like, we can't tell right now if you're going to notice a light there. We want to see how noticeable it would be if it's actually on there.
Yeah, originally when we were talking about putting the sound in, we thought that may be like too annoying for someone if in public you're, say, out to dinner with your family or something, and you just constantly hear beeping and beeping noises, that it may just be like a hassle for someone.
Or it could be incentive to behave.
Yeah. Hopefully we find that out with some testing.
I think that would certainly have a negative effect on the battery life as well, that your product would demonstrate over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much or how many user interviews have you conducted with doctors, and what metrics exactly are they most concerned about when it comes to foot injuries?
So like I said in my pitch, I'm family friends with a nurse practitioner, and she was talking to me about how if she could invent one thing right now, this is what she would want, something that where a patient is able to tell how much pressure they're putting on their lower body and be able to tell if they're exceeding what they should be for her rules for their recovery process.
Will my insurance cover this?
I thought it went pretty well. I think we did all right with our first presentation. The questions, they were pretty tough, but I thought we handled it all right.
We definitely delivered our lines and script very well. We knew it was going to be a challenge coming in, answering electrical questions about two of like the smartest guys that know about all that stuff. So we knew it was certainly going to be a challenge, but I think we delivered.
Another motorcyclist is hospitalized tonight following a crash.
Police responded to a serious motorcycle accident. One person was hurt in this late-night motorcycle crash.
22-year-old man is clinging to life after a driver hit him while he was riding his motorcycle.
Next into the tank is Adrian Yang and Aiden Strang. Adrian is a passionate and innovative honors student, not only excelling in STEM courses, but is also a 10-year pianist that has been recognized in many state competitions. Adrian plans to major in mechanical engineering to forward his diverse thinking. Aiden is a 2-year CTE engineering student who plans to major in mechanical engineering. He has devoted the last year to custom building his own motorcycle, learning and generating interest throughout the project.
Hi Sharks, I'm Aiden Strang, and this is my partner Adrian Yang, and we at Ride Again bring you the Second Eye. This is a motorcycle dash camera system designed not only as a safety device, but also a security device. On average, 89,000 motorcyclists are injured a year in the United States alone. 5,800 of those result in their deaths. And of those deaths, over 10% happen in between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m., when other drivers or riders on the road may not see them for hours. So we decided to create a system to give riders in more remote areas peace of mind when riding. For city riders, we also created a system called Sentry Mode. Sharks, this is a completely reimagined motorcycle dash camera.
Our system acts based off a sensor and camera system that's directly mounted to the motorcycle. It's a set and forget system that requires no upkeep or charge because it's attached to the battery. The bike unit consists of a front and rear facing camera that include a gyroscope and an accelerometer to detect when hard braking occurs.
Sharks, if a rider is in an accident, the difference in between life and death could be time. With our system, a 30-second timer starts as soon as the system senses that there could be an accident. This system could be canceled on the motorcycle itself or with a key fob that's included with our system. If not canceled, it would communicate with emergency services in order to get a quick and efficient response to a rider who could be badly injured or currently unresponsive. Hard braking events would also trigger a video response over a longer period of time in order to catch close calls or other drivers' unsafe actions. This would make our system more efficient and easier to use than any other system on the market. It's the most important thing with safety devices to be easy to use, because with ease of use comes it being more likely to be taken advantage of by the rider.
Parking your $40,000 motorcycle in the city can be a painful and risky maneuver. Our system is set by the phone or key fob when the bike is off and in an area that the rider is afraid of it being tipped or touched. Any slight movement detected, the bike will start recording the area, and with this, it would also sound an alarm to tell this person to back away from the motorcycle. According to our market research, Nultz, a local bike shop, said it was an interesting idea and that they would buy it for a friend or family member.
The app is a free mobile app for Android and iOS and would transfer data via Bluetooth. Videos could be transferred via Wi-Fi in order to get faster responses, and the videos themselves would be stored in the meantime on an SD card on the system mounted to the bike.
The starting price for the Ride Again Second Eye is $250, which includes the brains, the waterproof camera, and the key fob. The emergency response is a subscription-based product that's renewable year by year. We wanted to sell the Second Eye as a more affordable, more efficient, and more protective dash cam than our competitors in order to have as many people taking the big step towards saving their lives.
Sharks, we're looking for $300 in order to build 2 prototypes. This money would go towards the accelerometers, gyroscopes, microcontrollers, 3D printing, the key fob, and most importantly, the wide-angle lenses for the front and rear of the bike. We need 2 prototypes because one would be used for calibration and field testing and may not survive forever. So Sharks,
will you work with us again to help motorcyclists ride again?
So I believe motorcycle dash cams already exist, and there are also systems that are similar to, OnStar that people are familiar with in their cars for motorcycles specifically. How is your device more than just combining these two things?
That's an awesome question. So with one of the things as far as combining parts, generally when you get onto a bike, you have your checklist, right? So you make sure everything is good on your bike, you make sure your brakes work, and even one extra step is a lot of work when you do it every single ride. And the thing with anything like this, if an accident occurs, it's too late. You can't turn on a device that's off at the moment. So one of the things with combining those two, it lessens the chance of someone accidentally forgetting to, let's say like iStot is one of the main competitors. They have a helmet-based system that has a gyroscope and accelerometer that would contact emergency services, which means that you would have your dash camera that you would turn on, you would have your iStot that you would turn on, you would connect both to your phone, and with that it's just a bit of a hassle. It's not quite as efficient as just having one system. You turn on a button, it connects, everything is there and ready to go.
And even so, the product that Aiden is referring to, it doesn't necessarily even call EMS. It actually just texts an emergency contact, so that can even add more time to the buffer of, like if you just see a text message that your family member's in trouble, you don't necessarily call 911 and give the location right away. You might go check out the scene, which just adds that time of where they could have a broken leg and be bleeding out.
Given the wide variety of motorcycles, having been riding them since I was 16, how do you handle the various locations that you're going to have to mount the rear camera, the front camera, the electronics, get it wired into the bike itself?
That's an awesome question. So with that, there would be two different mounts that come, in the packaging for it. So generally, for the most part, you can split bikes into naked bikes, such as Harleys or Street Fighters, stuff like that that's similar. Or you have your street bikes like Ninjas, Ducatis, stuff like that. So with that, you would either have a fairing mount, which would use 3M tape. That's going to be super strong tape. It's wind resistant for some of the models of tape. And then you would also have a bar mount, which would just be a twist clamp onto there as well.
What do your plans look like for entering the market, given that there's already similar products out there, and how are you going to differentiate yourselves?
So generally, I think with a lot of things that are finding a lot of success these days is going to be Instagram, stuff like that, where you can target a younger audience and make being safe cool again. There's definitely, especially in New Hampshire, where there isn't a law as far as helmets go, as far as a lot of other safety things, including seatbelts, stuff like that. I think really with using kind of those social medias to target younger people, it would heighten the chances of those people thinking that it's cool to have a motorcycle camera. It's cool to not die on a motorcycle.
That would be cool.
So this being able to forward your location and the time of whatever event happened to emergency services directly, I'm assuming there may be some sort of entry for getting a GPS-enabled device. Would this be like a one-time fee model, or would this be like a subscription-based model?
So, like I said earlier, it would be like a subscription that's renewed year by year, and actually would use your phone GPS location instead of having something actually integrated into the camera itself.
And how much would it cost?
$250.
Per year?
No, so the subscription-based system would probably be roughly right around $50. It would depend on how much interest there would be in the initial market, just because with that you would need that backing of actual people to contact emergency services, because generally emergency services aren't a big fan of a robot calling them. So you would need an actual backing of human beings that you would need to pay for that. So it would depend a lot on the initial interest.
So you're relying on the phone for all the connectivity of the device? It does not have a separate radio or anything like that?
Correct. So for most of the time, we thought about this in the design itself. So either you could do something like a satellite phone or satellite connectivity system. So with that, that's going to limit, one, it's going to be really expensive or significantly more expensive just to add that in. And two, sometimes people do just want to transfer things super quickly to the phone as well. So in areas, let's say in the whites that you don't have phone connectivity with that, some of it is also just a certain amount of caution that riders need to be doing anyway. Just because in those remote areas, they should know that riders, there's no really possible way of contacting anyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the benefits of using the rider's phone for the GPS is it's constantly getting updated. One of the problems with car GPS is that you have to bring it back to the dealer oftentimes for them to update the GPS, the maps, to know who you are, versus getting just a longitude and latitude coordinate. It's the road, the location, that kind of thing. So having it on the phone is a good benefit. It's free, meaning the updates.
Well, I was thinking that having a separate radio actually, culturally justifies a subscription cost.
Yeah.
Whereas the phone, people might say, well, I'm already paying for the phone. Why do I have to pay more for this? And the other question you have to differentiate against is what you've described for the crash is functionality that you might be able to implement in a phone app. Meaning, why do you need a separate device given that the phone already has, and you're using the GPS, the radio, and it already has accelerometers and things.
So with that, the reason that you would need a separate system, the main really event that we were thinking about as far as that goes is going to be a hit and run event, where if a rider gets thrown from the bicycle, the reason that they need to be wide angle is so then on the front and back of the bike itself, so it could catch any plate numbers, anything like that possible. Also, the reason that it couldn't be just a phone system is because with the gyroscope, it would need to be calibrated to a certain amount where, okay, this is flat, and then what a bicycle is tipped over. It depends a lot for what the rider wants to do with their phone, whether it be in their backpack, whether it be on a quad lock mount. So as far as the phone goes, it kind of varies in the locations that it could be mounted.
Now, one of the concerns that I have with some sort of camera that may have, downloading to an SD card is privacy, especially if that SD card is mounted right on the bike. What would be able to separate the people who actually need that information, say emergency services or people who are analyzing the accident versus some random person on the street? How would one person be prevented from accessing that information and the other person, both parties which you have not met, be permitted to access that information?
That's a good question, and we've actually have security questions, not necessarily towards the SD card, but towards what prevents the cameras actually getting stolen themselves. And because they're wired directly to the battery, and then if some regular thief comes up onto two cameras with connection wires going in, I doubt that it would take them it would take them about 25 minutes at least to cut the wires and actually know what they're doing. And the SD card will be inside in a slot. I mean, we still should think about that security-wise, but that hasn't been a concern. More of the concern has been how secure are the cameras themselves. Can somebody just take them?
Pretty good. I think it went pretty well. As far as the questions go, I don't think they were as difficult as I was kind of expecting them to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the fielding the questions wasn't terrible, but I think just public speaking in general, it's hard to get experience in kind of the normal world as far as that much public speaking goes. So I think that's still the main thing. I don't think it went bad at all today. I think the speech actually went better than I was expecting it to go. But public speaking is always something that people can practice more.
Yeah.
Pretty nervous, but we've rehearsed a lot, and so we feel pretty prepared at the same time.
Let's just see how it goes. I hope it goes well.
We're excited.
Yeah.
Do you remember the last time you were sick? Did you get dizzy or dehydrated? Feel nauseous or fatigued? Most of us have experienced some form of electrolyte imbalance. This is often caused by an imbalance of electrolytes such as calcium, chloride, magnesium, phosphate, potassium, or sodium.
However, for people with chronic illnesses, electrolytes can be an emergency telltale of whether an underlying condition is developing into a harmful disease or if a negative progression of a diagnosed disease is present and a doctor needs to be contacted.
In between doctor's appointments, people can be left with uncertainty about their condition and symptoms. More frequent hospital visits can increase strain on patients and their chances of contracting an illness, such as MRSA, COVID, or C. diff.
Perhaps one of your loved ones has heart disease. How do they keep track of their health outside of visits to the doctor's office and lab?
How do they know when there is something wrong and it's time to call their doctor?
Could there potentially be an easier way to detect their condition's progression?
Next into the tank is Sarah Chon, Elizabeth Martin, and Gabby DeOrto. Sarah is a determined student and musician who is currently ranked in the top 4% of her class. She is a violinist in 3 orchestras within our community and is currently concertmaster at the Youth Symphony Orchestra in Manchester. She is part of 3 honor societies and is secretary of the Science National Honor Society. She is currently an AP Biology intern aspiring towards a career in the biomedical sciences. Elizabeth is a passionate and committed student in the top 5% of her class. She is in 4 honor societies, is an AP Bio intern, and captain of the varsity ski team. Elizabeth does crew for Greater Lawrence Rowing and is currently a member of the FRC robotics team. She has earned several national awards for sculpture and is looking to pursue the biomedical sciences with a pre-med track in college. Gabby is a creative and dedicated high honors student. She is currently enrolled in AP Physics C on top of other challenging AP and honors courses. She also excels in various mediums of art, including drawing, digital art, painting, and photography, having been recognized in multiple state art shows. Gabby plans to major in chemical and biomolecular engineering.
Good evening, Sharks. I'm Sarah.
I'm Gabby. And I'm Elizabeth.
Did you know that over 1/3 of people in the world suffer from chronic conditions of heart disease, kidney disease, and diabetes? That's 3 out of every 10 people here tonight.
An electrolyte imbalance is a symptom of many high-risk diseases and can cause a number of complications to arise. The problem is that doctors and patients don't know of this imbalance until after the condition flares up, typically sending the patient to the hospital. Today, there's no real proactive at-home testing of electrolytes, and like the millions of diabetics who do daily glucose checks, people want a monitoring device for their electrolytes that's at home and non-invasive.
Many years ago, my grandmother had one of her heart valves replaced. After the surgery, 2 to 3 times per year, she would feel dizzy and fear that there was something wrong with her heart, so she'd go to the hospital. Time and time again, doctors proved that this was just an electrolyte imbalance, and it was easily treatable. However, one of these trips proved to be fatal when she contracted MRSA, which is a serious bacterial infection that is threatening the hospitals all over the world. She'd passed away within 7 days of contracting this bacteria, a totally preventable death had she been able to track her own electrolytes.
Our solution, the ELAC. The ELAC is a non-invasive saliva-based testing device for use at home. It uses state-of-the-art electrochemical sensors, readers, and software to monitor, track, and record your electrolyte levels regularly. It is individualized to each person's baseline levels, condition, and age, and it can alert you to contact your care provider when it is necessary to do so.
Being able to take a more proactive role in your testing can better result in more care and concern for yourself and your own health. Oh, and I think it's a little friendlier than having to pee in a cup and carry it.
So saliva is becoming a very important diagnostic fluid. Over the past few years, many clinical studies from around the world have provided data on the effectiveness of associating saliva electrolytes with health conditions.
And we have communicated with many professionals in the medical field, from PAs and RNs to primary care and specialist MDs, who have all positively commented on the usefulness and need for a product of this type. Our target group is people with diabetes, heart disease, kidney and liver disease, disease, but there are many other groups of people who would also benefit from using our device to measure their electrolytes.
Other affected groups range from former and recovering drug and alcoholics, people with autoimmune diseases and eating disorder remissions, athletes who have strict diet and training regimens, to even nursing homes could all utilize a device like this. Business-wise, our product has a lot of potential. The medical industry is one of the fastest growing segments, and in-home medical devices specifically are estimated to grow 34% annually, reaching $60 billion by 2024.
So we estimate a project budget of $575. This will cover the sensors, CPU, and power systems. We're going to be using an Arduino as a CPU, and Bluetooth LE will serve as a way to connect our device to the phone app. So there's going to be two components, which is the sensor reader and the handle, which will store the CPU, power systems, and Bluetooth LE chip.
So Sharks, in front of you is our subscription box. This is how we plan to sell our product. We will do $180 for the original price of the handle and sensor pack, and then $99 for replacement sensors delivered every 6 months.
For us, we are estimating a scaled production price for about $40 for the sensor pack and $20 for the handle.
So Sharks,
will you stand by us
in our journey to a non-invasive future?
So how well is the science known about the correlation between saliva and blood? Because presumably an electrolyte imbalance is important in your blood and not so much in your saliva.
Yes, so UCLA has done many tests because they have a patent pending product for something sort of on the lines of this, and their extensive studies have shown that electrolytes do show up in saliva. Some of them are even more concentrated in saliva and more accurate in saliva than in blood. But for our product, you wouldn't need to correspond your blood and your saliva. You would just take a saliva test as your baseline, and then from there it would compare next.
Yeah, so when you're healthy, you're going to go to your doctor and you're going to get your baseline test of electrolyte. That basically is what you're going to compare to when you might have a problem.
Will personalized suggestions be available to people who use this based off their electrolyte levels at the device level, or will it be left up to the physician to provide those suggestions?
Well, there will be some suggestions that are given in our app. Our app is going to have like a general tips feature with some at-home remedies for, like, say, low potassium, have some bananas. But if it's too drastic, this is something that it will tell you, okay, you might want to contact your physician. You're looking a bit past a healthy boundary for this electrolyte, and it will let you know you should contact your physician. But for small discrepancies, it will have some tips and feedback.
Can you walk me through the various components that you're planning to prototype with and how much each of those costs, and then eventually how much a full prototype would estimate?
Yes, so these sensors, they're going to be, we're looking to buy from 2 different companies just to make sure, say in future, that if there's we have an issue with one company, we can outsource to a different one. For the prototype, it's going to be about $360 for for a reusable sensor, and we're going to get some single-use ones also, which would be about $140. And then the rest is going to be for possibly developing our own circuit board with just so we can meet the microprocessing requirements that we need, and then power systems and Bluetooth LE chips. But scaled it is going to be really small prices for the sensors, like under $3 per sensor.
I have a silly question. Why doesn't this already exist?
No, that's like a good question because, yeah, but saliva is just becoming this new diagnostic fluid, which Elizabeth had said earlier, and certain companies are already jumping on the ability to make a certain sensor for a pH in saliva, and UCLA has, I mentioned earlier, a patent pending product for a implant on your tooth, and it will it uses electrolytes to get some sort of data. But aside from that, there isn't really anything out here because it's just so new.
There are some other there's another sensor on the market, but it is only a single-use one electrolyte sensor. Since we're combining multiple electrolytes, we differentiate from them in that case. But there is some products, like it does exist. It's just for a very specific type of paralysis.
So again, not being technical, and I apologize if what I'm saying sounds weird, but does the correct electrolyte level, is that determined by body structure in addition to conditions?
The only factor is age. Like gender doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's just your age, and that could be like factored in.
Yeah, so we're going to be factoring, say, age, like I mentioned this before, so we're going to be factoring in, the age and the health condition, and that's kind of part of how we're personalizing it to each individual.
Right. So tall people, short people, small, that makes no difference.
Mm-hmm. Age is the only difference.
Yeah, okay, and not what you eat has nothing to do with electrolytes.
Excuse me, what?
What you eat.
So there'd be a 20 to 30 minute fasting period, which we do on a daily basis.
But what you eat on a daily basis in no way would affect or change the measurement of the electrolytes?
No, it wouldn't affect the measurement. Obviously, if you're a healthy eater, you might be more electrolyte balanced.
Oh, I didn't know if the body, as it's consuming the food, and breaks it down.
No, that's a good question.
Yeah, okay.
Pardon me if I missed this earlier. What is your ask in funding, and what will you need to do with that?
Our ask in funding is $575. $360 will go to a reusable sensor that can last like 1 to 2 years, and then there's going to be $140 to get some single-use sensors, and then the rest is going to the Bluetooth LE chip, which is fairly insignificant price-wise, and then also developing our own circuit board in the future, which is also fairly cheap.
What do your plans look like for getting this into the hands of people that need it? And what's your general go-to-market strategy if you had this produced and you have the product already ready for it?
So it would be we would really like to sell it either to like an intermediate, like either it would be like the hospitals, or so then they could distribute it towards people who they either think need it, or then there's obviously the athletes and stuff like that who could just directly purchase it. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, so one example is like with cardiologists, we were talking with one, and he talked about how when his patients are in the hospital, they're always measuring the electrolytes, and potassium in particular, they look at, and when the patient's being given drugs like diuretics, it really fluctuates their electrolyte levels. And then it prolongs the time that the patient has to keep coming in and out of the hospital, which just decreases patient quality of life. And if we can provide something that hospitals could give to their patients to lower the time that they have to go back and forth from the hospital, it would really benefit the patients.
And then, as we mentioned earlier, our core marketing strategy is a subscription service also. And the app will remind you, say, okay, your sensors need to be updated. And that's going to be our core strategy.
So a question from a user's point of view, is there any cleansing they have to do of the unit after each use, given they've shoved, the saliva-based, coated sensor into the...
Yeah, so the chemistry of it is kind of delicate, so it's going to have to just be mild soap and water, which will do the job very effectively.
Okay.
And it will protect your sensors.
And if they don't do that regularly, what happens?
So the sensors are going to be coated with, say, previous electrolytes, so that is going to it's going to impact the results. But the nice thing is that we'll be able to detect, oh, there's way too many electrolytes present. This is not even reasonable or possible. We also have a calibration fluid that we're going to put with the subscription box, which you can check once or twice a month, or however, up to your comfort level to see how many times you would like just to double check, okay, the sensors are working, that kind of situation.
So are you viewing this as a a prescribed device, or is this something that someone could just buy without a prescription?
Someone could just buy it without, we're looking for it to be like a prescribed device so it'll be covered by insurance, but since we have other target groups, like say athletes, we had a huge survey, and majority of athletes actually said that this would be beneficial to them. So that could be like, say through a middleman, say like Amazon, that could be purchased.
Okay, thank you.
We feel really good.
Very relieved, like
Mhm.
emotionally, but then I think that we got really what we wanted to say out there.
Yeah, we definitely got our point across. I feel like we answered the questions very effectively, and also like once you got into the Q&A, I don't know, like the Q&A halfway through, once you just relaying the information in the research, it just kind of like calmed me down personally.
I feel like we got a pretty decent support. I don't even know if that's the right word to say from the Sharks. They didn't seem super aggressive. They seemed, I guess, interested in what we were having to say, and I guess that was really nice to hear that we weren't getting shut down.
That was definitely a positive.
$12 midnight.
Mason, your essay is due in 10 minutes.
It was at this moment when Mason realized his laptop lid was too floppy to write his essay.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Mason, we have a solution.
Next into the tank is Colin Mello and Mason Simeone. Colin is a dedicated student who is part of the Math, Science, and Spanish Honor Societies. He is in the top 7% of his class, has taken 5 APs in the STEM field, and has been on the high honor roll every quarter since 6th grade. He has taken part in 5 extracurricular activities, such as DECA, where he placed 3rd overall in the state for his event and qualified for the national competition. He is an AP Physics intern with his partner Mason. Mason is a dedicated and hardworking student who has been involved with 2 internships both in and out of the high school. He has been working since he was 14, doing everything imaginable. He has taught himself almost everything about his car and how to work on it. He has also taken part in 4 extracurricular activities.
Good evening, Sharks. My name is Colin Mello.
And my name is Mason Simeone. I've dealt with a flimsy laptop lid for the past 4 years I've been at this school. There is nothing more aggravating than when you're cranking out an essay and you keep losing your track of thought because your laptop lid won't stay in place.
Many teachers force us to keep our cameras on while taking a test to avoid cheating. Now, this becomes a challenge when your computer screen is always facing the ceiling. Your face is never in the displayed video, and teachers start to get suspicious. So every 5 seconds, we find ourselves adjusting our computer lid just to have it fall back down again.
These computers are 8 years old, and they've been used pretty much every day. We are the second group of kids to get these computers. This means that another group of teenagers use these computers for 4 years before we even got them. This causes the factory hinge to become very weak. Although these computers are very nice, they've been used and abused by teenagers, and the longer this goes on, the worse the hinge becomes. The school does not replace this because they don't see it as a detrimental issue, such as complete display failure. But as we know, using these laptops is hindering to our work. The problem's only going to get worse, too. Kids are now being given computers at a younger age than ever. My 9-year-old brother has been given the responsibility of taking care of his own laptop. I think you can agree that these expectations of being respectful and responsible towards these expensive pieces of equipment are unrealistic for a 3rd grader.
Now, as students, we're using these laptops much differently than the regular office worker would. We constantly find ourselves throwing them into our backpacks and into our cars, having them withstand the full force of elements from sports equipment to New England winters. We talked to a group of our friends, and we found that on the average day of a high school student, we open and close our laptops about 25 times a day. It is all this additional wear that is causing our computer hinges to weaken at an accelerated rate. We surveyed 50 people from our high school, and we found that actually 48% of these people have this flimsy lid problem. And about 97% of these people would rather pay for a cheap fix opposed to getting the problem professionally fixed at full price.
According to LaptopMD.com, having this fixed professionally will cost upwards of $150 and $200 for this specific computer. You can buy a GoPro camera for that amount of money. Now, who wants to spend that much on a hinge when you can buy a simple solution for just $5?
Our solution is the stick stand. It is a stand that uses an adhesive to stick to the back of your laptop screen and a grippy substance on the bottom that attaches to the surface of a table to be able to adjust to different heights. Now, Sharks, if you look at your table, you can see our working prototype. You're able to see that our solution is designed with the ease of use in mind. It is a simple 1-minute install. Simply open your laptop, unfold the stick stand, and you are ready to go.
Our vision for this is to mass produce it to get our cost per units down. Then we can branch off and make different variations of stick stand, such as different colors or some with attachments, like a small pencil holder or a notepad. We can also market this to companies by putting their logo on them.
To bring our idea to the next level, we are looking for $150 to cover the experimentation costs of using different materials to test the durability of the stick stand. Our goal is to make this solution affordable yet reliable by testing a variety of different materials.
Come on, Sharks, stand by us with stick stand.
So is your goal to actually have a product by the end of the course that you're like selling on Amazon, or?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we have a working prototype, and in our tests, this works pretty well. So we just have to fine-tune it, and then it's ready.
It's very interesting, actually.
I'm just curious as to whether this is actually the physical size, or is this just a model of what the unit would work?
So that is actually like just to get our idea across. Yeah. So with funding, we're trying to do different sizes, different shapes, see what works best.
Right, okay, thank you, because laptops come in all sizes,
yeah,
and depending on the vintage, all weights.
Yeah.
And I was assuming this was just for us to hold and touch.
Yep,
not to,
exactly.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How much are you anticipating to actually change the prototype from what you've given us today?
Well, we're expecting to make it different for each computer, so more variety. We also have to fine-tune it to get a sticky surface on the back to make it ready to attach to a computer and make it the flap.
And with that sticky surface you mentioned, what are your thoughts there? Are you looking for something like a tape type surface that over time is going to become worn out and not be sticky anymore?
Yeah,
how are you going to navigate that?
We hope to work with 3M to get a solid tape that we can easily apply.
I also have a connection with the Flex Seal Glue Factory. I also have some strings there that hoping maybe something will work out if 3M doesn't work.
So from my perspective, this is a pretty niche product because I was probably the one doing the abusing of the laptop, and now you got to pick up the pieces. How do you plan to bring this to market to the appropriate users so that it doesn't just get lost and people just don't pass it in the store or wherever you plan to sell this?
Yeah, we hope to use social media basically to show them a little video of it working, and then most people that see it, if they have that problem, they're going to immediately think that would benefit them and buy it.
And what's your anticipated initial production volume? How many of these do you plan to sell and make the first time? And what would your return on investment be for one of these?
So we were thinking maybe first round, once we get an actual prototype down, maybe like 200 to 300 of them, just to maybe test it within our school. And we were thinking about making the actual, if we're hoping to make that price of that prototype around 25 cents, and we're going to sell it for $5.
We would give a good amount of them out to the people in the school for free to get testing going and see how they like it, and then maybe word of mouth gets around and other people peel it.
I assume at some point you're going to transition from 3D printing it to getting a mold-made injection molding.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We also got to test different materials and see which works best.
And have you gotten these into the hands of some students at WHS?
We have not. It's a little difficult to 3D print being out of school half the time now, so we're still working on production right now, but we hope to.
So that's approximately $1,000 that you plan to make off your first batch alone, which is for that amount of volume and price and cost of production, pretty impressive. Do you plan to conduct a advertising campaign with a portion of this, and how would you fund that?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea. We'd probably take a portion of that and put it into maybe making posters, putting them up around school areas, because a lot of schools are now implementing these computers, obviously with this remote learning climate.
You know, this is a sort of thing that would be a classic Kickstarter campaign, that you could fund it. If you didn't get funded here, you could fund it outside that way. And that's an interesting way of assessing a market, although the people who are on Kickstarter do not always turn into a real market. You know, there are some people out there that just are into Kickstarter and wouldn't actually buy the product if they saw it on Amazon or something like that. But you might consider that as a way of validating the market.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely a product that has a specific need, and you're only going to buy if you realize you have a laptop that doesn't stay up by itself.
So overall, it looks like there's pretty low barriers to entry in terms of making one of these. So if, say, you have this product, what's gonna stop other companies from then all of a sudden making it as well, and then you just becoming a small fish in the sea?
We were thinking, well, depending on what our actual prototype becomes, maybe a patent with some sort of shape, or maybe the glue even. If we can figure, maybe with the funding, we can see what we can actually patent and stop other people from ripping it off almost.
Right. So if you're going to go for the patent, which I would strongly recommend, and hopefully the school's listening to this, you'd want to do it on the concept of the use of it, not the design.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because otherwise people could change the design and get the same function. Okay. So it's the function of being used as a stand to help, keep a laptop, whatever, screen upright.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Forget about the glue, forget about this, because otherwise they'll design around you.
Yeah.
Just because they'll change where the hinge is, or they'll mount it on the bottom of the laptop instead of on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. We really appreciate that advice.
In this case, it's really a utility patent, not a design patent.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in general, you want a patent to start broad, and if you have troubles, you can narrow it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's feasible to fully automate the production of this product on your first run, or would you require some degree of hand-holding in the manufacture?
To start off, we hope to reach out to a 3D printer, like wide bread thing, so they can mass produce it for us, or not mass produce, but in our numbers, so we are out of the factor of it, factory production. So yes, to answer your question, we would try to automate that.
There is a company in Salem that can 3D print you a mold, fairly reasonably priced.
Yeah, you can also get soft aluminum tools that are good for a few hundred to a few thousand, and they're relatively inexpensive these days. They're more than $150, but they're a few $1,000s, and you could actually produce these in the actual plastic. The problem with 3D printing is it's typically not as structural as a truly molded device.
Thank you. I feel pretty good. I think we did really well.
Yeah, I'm surprised by how much they liked it. I feel like our pitch went exactly as planned. There was really no hiccups there, and our questions were easy enough that we can answer and helpful.
Yeah, they actually gave us a lot of advice on how to make the product better and everything like that.
I feel like now we're just ready to actually start making them, producing them, and get them out there.
Yeah, and hopefully make a profit.
Okay, so real quick before we get started with that, I want to acknowledge and thank a few kind of groups of people. For starters, our Sharks did an amazing job. They gave us their evening. We brought back some alum who are absolutely lovely to see. Shyam and Taryn, it's so nice to have you with us. And Doug and Kenny, you guys have given so much of your time, even before tonight, many, many years of support to our program here. So we're very appreciative of that. Thank you very much. I also want to thank a couple of other unsung heroes. Russ Magnuson is in the back and here all night just running lights and audio and setting up 90% of what you see on the stage. And Melissa Braille is in charge of the live stream, so she's managing all the camera angles so that people at home could watch. So thank you to those two people as well. I also want to mention Melissa Sun and Heather Brayer, who gave their nights to do some of the operations on the side, the slideshows, get everything kind of organized. So I do appreciate their help as well. But our students have worked really hard. There was a lot of pressure on them. Most of you here are either friends with them or family members and have seen them under pressure practicing their pitches, and there was a lot of stress that they dealt with, and I thought they performed really wonderfully, and what a great opportunity, despite all of these circumstances that we're all in right now, for them to be able to actually go through the motions of physically being here on stage in front of the Sharks. I personally felt that it wouldn't translate well virtually, and I'm really happy that we were able to give them that opportunity. But I, like you, am really proud of how they did tonight. Well done, guys. Okay, Sharks, take it away.
Yeah, so we said this. Yeah. Right. Yeah, so we start by saying what the best show is. Okay. So I guess in this section we're going to give you a little bit of feedback on what we liked and where we think we can go. I think your project is interesting. The biggest issue I see is the regulatory hurdles. But I thought you put together some interesting ideas. It's certainly a product that could be implemented, but you would have to work significantly on the regulatory hurdles. So that's my feedback. Do you guys?
I'd have to agree on that. I think that overall it sounds like a really cool project idea. Like just having like some kind of locking mechanism and then integrating that with solar power is a really like neat thing to try doing. And so I think that you guys picked like a solid capstone-esque type of a project to pitch.
Okay. Do you really want to hear from all of us?
Okay, so
no.
I guess we'll.
This is so weird. How are we doing this? This is so weird. Okay, so this is Chrono G,
Yep.
right? Okay, so do you want to do this one, Taryn?
Sure.
This is the one we were talking about with them.
Sure. So Chrono G, hello, great pitch, guys. So I think like for me the biggest concerns were just the radio technology that you were talking about. I think that Doug here could also speak to that, but and also the target market I found to be a little bit confusing because you're going for 14 to 20-year-olds who don't have their phones on them while they're going to be playing this game and going very far away from each other. So it was a little bit confusing for me personally. I think that it's a really cool concept. I think that VR, AR games are becoming so big. You guys all experienced what was Pokemon Go, that era. Like, definitely, there's a lot of potential in that sort of a market, and I think that you definitely are on the right steps to finding that sort of niche for yourself. So, cool concept, but yeah. So I think that'd be the feedback I have to give.
Yeah, we did have issues concerning those things. However, if you do find a way to make the technology work, I would also explore what other applications that you might be able to find. There might be a whole world of applications outside VR, AR gaming that this could be used for, and I wouldn't limit myself based off the gaming aspect of it.
Do you want me to do this one? Okay.
Let's see, Aether bracelets.
Yes.
All right. I thought that I know a selection of people that would be ecstatic to try your product. It's pretty exciting being able to just carry whatever and kind of mix and match whatever you want to do within the course of a week. I think that our concern came from basically the barrier to entry being that the cost of getting a bunch of different manufacturers to sign on with making little capsules would be far greater than you might estimate.
Yeah. The concept of having a wearable device that would distribute fragrance in many ways makes a lot of sense for those people that use cologne and fragrance. We're just trying to figure out the benefit of a bracelet versus carrying a little bit with you. And again, I'm the wrong person for this, but anytime I walk into a store, a large store, it seems as the perfume, fragrance section is huge, and it tends to be brand names. And then one of the questions was to you earlier, you know, how would where would you get the fragrances from? And you were talking about making your own. And what would the cost be if you were to go to brand name, suppliers? I don't know what the proper term is for people who make fragrances or colognes. But yeah. But so that was, we were discussing that a lot. You're welcome. Do you want to,
go ahead.
Okay, so your concept was really good. We liked it. We liked what it is you're trying to do. It's very much up in the air as to how it would actually get implemented to us, and that's one of the big concerns we have. Is just the way that it would get implemented. Because one of the concerns is, what happens if someone brought this up? What happens if someone is smoking when the spray goes off? Would it explode? Would it catch fire? How would that be handled? Someone, even an electronic device that sparks in the vehicle, static electricity. It's just some of those little things that we spent some time talking about. But we do like the idea of the system itself as a whole. Yeah. You're welcome.
No problem.
This is the hardest part. Here's the hardest part. Okay.
So we found your idea very interesting. I think you've hit upon an emerging technology that we're going to see in a lot of things in the near future. My main concern, and I think our main concern, is because it is kind of an emerging thing, it'll be an interesting amount of research to apply that, and it'll be interesting to see if you can achieve the resolution and in quality you need, but it's a very interesting project. I also think that the price point that you've identified is much higher than it needs to be, and that's probably a good thing. If you could actually sell it at that price, you'd be making a tremendous amount of money. But my guess is if you needed to, you could go to a much cheaper cost.
I would encourage you to try taking some video and try doing some software development before potentially going to hardware. I think that there's a lot of things to be learned in the software portion of that you guys can get started with right away.
You're welcome.
slow healing helper. So great pitch, guys. You did a really nice job delivering the product, your passion behind it. Clearly, you're beginning to do some market research. I would encourage you to definitely keep talking with doctors through connections you have, or just using that student card and starting to make connections, and just ask them like what that process is like for their patients, how many of their patients suffer from getting injuries while in their boot, and just start to really, I think, vet like how different things that you can do to help alleviate that. I think that the concept is really neat. I think that overall, overall definitely something that's very prototypable for capstone purposes. So overall pretty positive feedback from me.
I'll also say that I appreciate the lengths you went to make this very cost effective, especially the use of a strain gauge that costs almost nothing. So kudos on that.
Yeah. One of the things in doing some research was that there's apparently a large number of people that suffer heel and sole damage and pain while in the casts and boots. And one of the questions we had was, with the strain gauge, how will that be placed so that it doesn't further irritate the sole of the foot? Because we love the concept of what it's doing and the benefits of knowing that you're not putting too much pressure or you're putting enough pressure on it. It's just doing it without further damaging, the foot in this case. Yeah. Yep.
You're welcome, guys.
George. Right again.
Yes. I think we had a little trouble differentiating your product from existing technologies. It's an interesting idea. I would suggest that if you make it more of an appliance model, it would justify the subscription price. And there's a lot to be said for subscription models. They're very popular in venture-funded sorts of things. But I think the difficulty really is in differentiating it from dash cams and separate things in the form of apps or other appliances that already exist.
Thank you.
What's going on, ELEC? I thought you guys had a very fantastic personal pitch that really resonated with a lot of us. You identified target markets. You did a great job with that. My personal concern would be my own understanding of the technology. You guys were the ones to school me on where we are in that sort of emerging technology. So I just simply don't know enough about this target market to be able to make a educated opinion on yours, but I really liked your pitch and the way you described everything.
I want to start by saying that your presentation was wonderful. Bringing in the personal, effect it had was really good. We think you're actually a little bit ahead of the curve, which is a really good thing. And the question is, does the technology currently exist to accurately provide the measurements that is needed? We think it's a great concept. Again, the presentation was wonderful, and we think it really can help a lot of people if it can accurately measure.
Yeah, and the one thing that made us feel that's possible to overcome was the concept of doing something differential from a baseline. Meaning that concept is a way of saying, well, if you don't really understand it, you do understand that maybe a change is something that you should look at more carefully, and that as a diagnostic tool is useful.
I can take this one.
Okay.
Oh, oopsies. All right, guys. So, great pitch, and thanks so much for making a nice little prototype. I thought that the prototype, given that you guys are pretty far along into the concept of it, was very useful. I think too that it's definitely something where it's going to be a matter of deciding for you guys like what you really want to get out of your experience here in Capstone. Since you are further along, since there isn't many tech aspects to this, it's going to be much more for you guys like on the business side of things, really figuring out what you want to do or how you want to structure the manufacturing, materials testing, and that studies on that end of the spectrum, more so than doing actual programming. So that's just kind of where you guys are at. I thought overall, great pitch, a cool little device, and as the Sharks mentioned, something that's definitely very Kickstarter-able, so kudos to you on that.
I loved the simplicity of this thing. Sometimes some of the greatest ideas are really those that take the least effort. So this has this has very few points where it could fail. It's extremely straightforward. There's demonstrated proof of concept. I really enjoy that, and I wanted to apologize for making you guys have to make this.
I just wanted to add that it's so rare that we see, and please don't be offended by this, such a non-technical product, and yet it serves such a huge purpose. Because, as we all know, the hinges do over time wear down, and you're solving a problem that at some point in time anyone with a laptop runs into. And you're doing it, again, don't be offended, in a very non-technical way, which is wonderful.
Can I just interrupt before you announce the winners? Excuse me, I just wanted to say thank you to our Sharks, and Mr. Kaplow thanked everybody, but the hours he puts into this program are really well beyond his teaching responsibilities, and so if you could just stand up, Mr. Kaplow, we just want to say a big thank you.
All right, without further ado, who wants to hear the winners? Or the ones that progress, I suppose. Everyone here's a winner, let's be honest. All right, so I will start to list them out in no particular order. The first venture, or the first project that will be admitting to Capstone is Elimigerms. All right. Should I go on? All right. So the next one that we'll also be accepting is the Field. After that, we have Healing Helper. Come on up, guys. Woohoo! Yay! All right, awesome. Next, we have Elect. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Stick Stand. Congratulations, everybody. Well, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just want to just add to them, just so they know. Oh, you already said it, I know, but
oh yeah,
they're being funded in full for.
Oh yeah, you guys will be funded in full for all of your projects to execute this coming semester. So congratulations. All right, so really, guys, honest to God, some great pitches all around from all of the teams. The fact that you guys are only still in high school and you're actually pitching an idea in front of like a mock Shark Tank is so insane and so incredible. And you don't even, tons of times, you don't even become like a senior in college. And this is the first time you get to experience something like this. So really, overall, great job, and I hope that you really enjoyed it. And with that, we'll be announcing the best in show. So this was based on really everything around from the preparation to the charisma displayed on stage to the pitch. And we felt that the best in show for tonight was Elect. Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations.
Really excited. I mean, we definitely we weren't quite knowing what to expect after. So we're gonna have to start purchasing some stuff and putting together our prototype, like the hardware first, then we'll get started on software. Or we might do them simultaneously, but yeah. We had like a good experience. It was very stressful, but it was super fun, and
it was definitely worth it.
Yeah,
that's for sure.